Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 374. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, alongside Johnny V.
We're the number one podcast in disc golf.
We can still arbitrarily throw out that claim.
Other people do, so I figure anybody can. I mean, right?
I guess it's all about the metrics, who we have to check in with. I mean, we're definitely the longest podcast in terms
That's
of
true.
Just sheer duration.
Is McDonald's the number one hamburger maker in the United States? Are they the number one just because they sell the most hamburgers?
I mean, again, all marketing is lying, right?
All
or
marketing
like
is
that.
lying. That's right.
Well, welcome, everyone. We see so many of our friends logging in over here on our YouTube chat. And I'm sure you guys are also out there on the Facebooks. Again, Terry Miller here with Johnny V. And tonight we're going to have a little bit of, I'll say, pretty much typical action coming at you guys. In just a few minutes, actually, we're going to catch up with one of our champions from this weekend. We're going to be talking to Natalie Ryan and big A-tier win, the Down East Players Cup. And there's a number of A-tiers that kind of circled throughout the country or that were around the country this weekend. I got a chance to quickly peruse and take a look, so we'll recap a few of those of what we saw, taking on what really feels like kind of our first big weekend outside of all of the Elite Series events and the majors and everything else. So some people taking advantage of a little extra golf here as we're moving into the fall and, well, not far off from the winter months, I suppose.
This is kind of my favorite time of year for disc golf. I mean, the tour is fun and all, but just all these little A-tiers, everyone kind of spreading out, kind of getting comfy. I love the weather, the fall weather in general. So this is kind of my favorite time of year. I actually even debated, a bunch of the broadcasters went out and played a week or two ago, and I almost went out the other morning, Sunday morning. I had nothing going on. I'm like, I could go out for a round. I didn't. Instead, I stayed around the house and did housework, but it's getting there. I might actually go out for a round soon.
You're so domesticated.
I'm very.
Also, after we speak with Natalie, I'm going to give you guys a quick recap of not everything that went down, some of what went down.
No, I want it all, Terry.
Over at the disc golf.
The dirty details from down south. I want the down south dirty details.
No, I'll give you guys some of the highlights that are shareable from the...
You keep justifying. Every time you say that, you justify that I can share.
The disc golf...
Hold on, let me ask the other golfers real quick. Let me text them and say, this story is good for you.
The beach bash that took place. And spoiler alert, it was a lot of fun with a lot of great people. And I'll just give you guys a recap on that a little bit later, but certainly a good time and looking forward to other iterations and how they can grow and improve, whether it's on land or if they take it back to a cruise format, which I think we'll probably see in the future, but certainly a good time. So I think without further ado, she's jumped on already, ready to go, more punctual than we are usually. So that's that already is
a good sign.
Is challenging us. We are catching up with our champion from this weekend, the Down East Players Cup champion. That is Natalie Ryan. Hello, welcome.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
We are great.
Can't complain.
First and foremost, congratulations. Is this your biggest win to date? You've got a lot of wins, and we can touch on some of those, but is this your biggest, most substantial win to date?
For sure. Definitely biggest payout. And I mean, it's I think it was the second A-tier I've ever played. So.
Okay. You can't complain about that. So, of course, we're talking about the Down East Players Cup presented by Eastern Disc Golf and Disc Box, to give it its full name. And there was a legitimate field size. And I don't want to ever say, well, like only 2 or 3 women isn't legitimate, but 14 women playing in an event this late in the year.
Off-season.
Yeah, off-season isn't exactly common. Looks like you were right there in terms of rating with, were you the highest rated player as of a few days ago?
I was, yes.
Okay. So
just edging out Holly Finley by about 4 points.
Okay. So you had what did it turn out to be, an 8-stroke advantage, 8-stroke victory?
I think so. I can't quite remember.
And it looks like you jumped out to a lead early, then you gave a little bit of it back, and then you gained it all back during round 3.
Oh, what a nice! That was a great third round.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Let's go all the way back to the beginning, though. This is the first time you've been on the show, so thanks for joining us. We love to get a little backstory for a lot of our players. We've either talked to them 100 times or everybody knows their story. But for a little backstory, when did you get introduced to disc golf? Where was that at? What kind of got you hooked on the game?
So the first time I ever played was actually, I think it was the second date with my boyfriend at the time.
Okay.
That was the first time I'd ever touched a disc. Before that hadn't even really heard of it. And kind of was hooked pretty quick. I mean, I went out with him so much, that I couldn't get out of the fields. So I just needed to throw. So
I'm sorry, how long ago was that? Roughly?
It was roughly, I think, 3.5-ish years ago, maybe a little bit more. I can't quite remember the exact time.
Okay.
But sometime in 20, I think.
And what was the course? What was your experience like in terms of, did you shoot 1,000 over par? Did you even keep score? What were some of the things specifically that got you just totally hooked on getting competitive with it?
The things you mentioned would not get anyone totally hooked.
Well,
did you shoot 1,000 over par?
No, but I'm just saying, like, some people go out and they're just flailing around but yet still loved it. So that's why, did you feel like there was a natural knack or?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I shot very poorly the first time I played. I don't even think we kept score because it would have been demoralizing. But we played a course called Bryan Park in Richmond, Virginia. It's probably the best local course in Richmond. Probably, it's arguable between your preferences because it's kind of wide open, longer, hilly, windy kind of course. But it's super fun. So,
what? If you recall, especially because it's semi-recent at only a few years now, what did you recall about either the flight of the disc or just something that clicked or didn't click or the challenge? Like, what was it specifically that you remember walking away from that round with that had you hooked?
I think it was more that I was determined to play better than I did. Not so much that I had done anything that was particularly cool or great, but that I just was frustrated and I kind of knew I could do better than I was. So I went back and I kept trying.
And where does that mentality come from? Have you always been competitive? Did you participate in other sports as a kid? Like, give us some of that backstory.
So I played soccer from probably like 7 or 8 until I was teens. I can't remember exactly when I stopped, but then after I'd stopped, I started, refereeing soccer. And when I went to college, I kind of dropped the soccer stuff and got into parkour. If you've ever heard of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's where you're running around the city and kind of bouncing off walls, right? More or less.
Yep. That is pretty much it. That is probably the easiest way to describe it.
I'm sure there's more to it for those of you. I don't want any hardcore parkour fans to get on my case, but there's a lot to it. But that's from the outside. That's what it looks like: jumping off a lot of walls, rolling around on concrete, like a lot of potential danger there.
I think you just described doing drugs and then going to downtown. So parkour, okay. So now you got me. We're gonna tangent for a minute. Like,
now you've done it.
Oh yeah.
Outside of like either, I think of doing hurdles in track. Outside of that, and then just thinking like, oh hey, I'm just gonna like jump around on some concrete and maybe break my face or my arm open. Like how does one come about? Like leaping around on all this stuff. And potentially killing myself with every single leap. What drives you to get into that?
I thought it looked cool. That was pretty much it. I'd seen a couple YouTube videos. I thought it looked fun. And when I went to college, there was a club at the college. So I just joined that. And the rest was kind of history after that.
Oh my gosh, so many more. So college parkour, like...
Yep.
Is that just like, hey, we're going down to, and I don't mean to sound at all like I'm diminishing it in any way, because I'm not, because it's crazy and very impressive what's done. But I think like, are you guys just like, oh, let's go to the library? There's a bunch of great pillars around there. I mean, how did you figure out where you're going to go practice?
That's exactly how it goes. That is exactly how it happens. Yeah. We pretty much would just message each other on Facebook, meet up somewhere, and just mess around for 4 hours at a time or so.
See, now I'm imagining in my head our college campus, like you said, library, the whole area around there, and just UW Milwaukee here. Just there'd be a lot of fun places to go.
So do you like scope out like, oh, let's go over to the industrial park, or let's go over to the fountains downtown and the city park? Like, you're just always scoping out places where you can jump around.
Exactly. Yep, that's pretty much how it went. We had a list of the ones we liked the most, and we just kind of repeat those ones. But every now and then we'd be driving through the city, see something we thought might be fun to go play on, I guess, and make a stop at some point.
I mean, it's no different than disc golfers these days who, like, you're driving through a city and you see, well, as my favorite example, a giant cemetery, and you look and you're like, wow, that could be an awesome disc golf park. It's how different is it? It's not.
Yeah, I mean, you could parkour in a cemetery if you really want to be disrespectful. A-hole, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you practice? I mean, not how do you practice? I understand you go there and you do repeatable motions probably to get your practice, but are you breaking down strategies? Are you analyzing one another? Are you recording it and then saying, hey, if I just put my foot here? I mean, is all of that thought process go into it?
Yep, 100%. It's a lot of group help and like feedback that we kind of got. And most of the time it was just reps, doing it as many times as you can until it doesn't seem scary anymore.
So when you see all the really impressive videos, people running around and doing it, is that usually a track in their head that is scoped out? I guess I think of a skater, that's in a, whatever those are called, skate parks, but on a fancy track, in a competition track. What's the word? It's not track. Anyway, and they have something already kind of predetermined, because to me it looks like it's all completely freestyled.
Yeah, it does look like that, but that's by design. They've probably done it hundreds of times until they got it right.
Damn those parkour.
Well, it's no different. I keep putting parallels. Skateboarders go through a track and it kind of looks like, oh, they're just picking and choosing the tricks they want to do, but they've done them 1,000 times on that exact track, the exact thing. I mean, it's
I know, but it looks at a skate park. I'm assuming they're out there practicing for days. When you see a cool parkour video, I'm like, oh, they just like randomly came across this place and they started just jumping around. But
set up their cameras. No,
I feel so cheated. Okay, so how does one fall out of doing that outside of maybe breaking your neck?
Well, it actually happened as I was transitioning. Oddly enough. I'd kind of had a falling out with a couple of friends, and that led me to kind of leave that kind of friend group. And around the same time, maybe about I think it was a year-ish later, I ended up finding disc golf and meeting my boyfriend. So
okay. So, yeah, I was just thinking, are there competitions at a college level, or is that like an intramural type thing, or is it strictly just a club thing? I mean, is there a way to progress or to achieve certain status or anything like that?
We didn't really know because we weren't. It's a bit hard to explain. So there's kind of just meetups, and notable people would come to those meetups, and there'd be like time trials or tag, basically just professional tag. But it would kind of just be that you'd go if you felt like it. There was no like entry fee or anything. It was pretty just kind of low to the ground stuff where you just meet up with a bunch of people and film stuff, and that'd be about it.
All right. I think for now I've got most of those questions out of the way. So, but I may circle back when more come up. Okay. So you're introduced to golf, and then when you went back out a second time and you wanted to improve and you really wanted to challenge yourself and you thought you could get better at it, at what point did you either discover or run into organized play, as in leagues or tournaments? Did you seek those out?
I didn't for the longest time. Like the whole first year I played, I didn't really kind of seek out any organized play. Mostly because I was afraid to suddenly be thrust into that group. that I wasn't, I didn't know anyone in it. So I didn't want to kind of go into that without my boyfriend, and he didn't like the club that we had. So it was kind of like I didn't want to put myself out there at that point. So I just kind of practiced by myself most of the time.
And then with some of the practice, what were some of the things that you recognized or immediately knew or felt in terms of your skill sets? Whether it's forehand or backhand, and if you had any special skills or anything that felt supernatural to you.
The only thing that really felt supernatural, I guess, to me was I started only forehand. That was it. That was the only thing I ever used. I tried to learn how to do a lefty forehand so that I could just do both forehands on each side and I wouldn't have to learn backhand because the X step seemed difficult at the time.
Sure.
So I just kind of tried to ignore that for a minute. Eventually you picked that up, but it took a while. Beyond that, my game was pretty bad for the most part until I put enough fieldwork in.
And did I read somewhere maybe earlier in the year, are you ambidextrous, or am I thinking of
I am, yes.
Okay. And so right there, did you find yourself, and I know you just mentioned about forehands, but did you find yourself ever thinking about, hey, maybe I should also try to practice equally from, using my other arm or anything like that? Did those thoughts come to you?
They did, but my partner was actually the one that kind of shied me away from it. More because he told me that horses favor righties. And now that I'm better, I know that's true.
Yeah.
I think we've seen you on, am I right? We've seen you on camera throwing lefty.
Yeah, I'll use it as a scramble shot, but I won't do anything off the tee with it or anything crazy like that. I can't get much power behind it because I haven't worked on the form. And
that was going to be my follow-up is, do you plan to develop being able to throw consistently left-handed?
Maybe someday, but probably not before I fix all the other issues with my form.
So never. I mean, because honestly, we're disc golfers, and there's always something better we can work on. I mean, like, if you feel like your forehand is good enough, then it's your backhand, then it's your overhand, then it's your turbo putt, then it's your backhand, then it's your straddle putt. Throwing opposite-handed is.
It feels like
unless you're Phil Arthur.
Yeah,
the only guy.
So. Yeah, from there, what was your first league or tournament or truly organized or competitive set of play?
The first event I ever played was, I think, the 2019, or no, I think it was 2018, like end of the year 2018, L'Orealla Challenge, which is actually the same course that 2019 USWDGC was at.
Okay. And what drove you to say, like, oh, this is it, I'm gonna go see how I stack up, I want to test my skills and play in something competitive?
I thought I was good enough. That was it. I was starting to play sort of consistently in practice rounds, and I started throwing somewhat all right with my form, and decided, what, it's time to try and see what happens.
And how did that go?
I got dead last.
Okay. But how did that make you feel in terms of who you met and the experience overall that was gained? Like, what were some of the big takeaways from that?
It was a great experience, very eye-opening, more because the mental game, I didn't realize the mental game was such a big part of it. And that tournament really, really knocked me on my butt. So.
And when you say mental game, what I immediately am drawn to and think about is all of us go out and play a practice round. You play a certain way in practice, but then you get to a tournament round and you're like, oh, wow, we're playing slower and there's so many more things to think about. And there's all these additional, only one chance. There's all these additional pressures. Were those some of the thoughts that you had, or was it something entirely different, or apprehension with other people around you?
That's part of it. When I started that tournament round, I actually started the round really, really well. And then I realized I was playing well and got in my head about it and suddenly couldn't do it anymore. And all of those thoughts that you just mentioned started creeping in. And it's hard to combat that when you're not used to doing it. So.
Yeah, and then you're on top of it, obviously, in that competitive format of like, oh, hey, everyone is out for blood to some degree. Everyone's out for blood here. We're all trying to play the course, but yet we're all trying to beat one another. So I can understand that entirely. So that was your first one.
Looks like you had a little bit more fortunate at your second one, the K Krushka 5.
Yep.
You won.
I did. I had a caddy, and he told me what to do, and it helped so much. Yeah.
In regard to what? Like, that's such an interesting thing, because sometimes I feel like caddies are really just like a almost a mindless like soundboard.
And then
there's
people.
Yeah, and then there's some caddies that are over caddying, that are I think talking way too much and probably trying to influence. What were some of the things that the caddy specifically had done for you?
Well, it mostly came down to when I was second guessing myself in mental game wise, and I would get, in my head a little bit. He would be kind of back there to reassure me that things were fine. And it was just, run it as normal. Doesn't matter. And that helped way more than I expected it to. And even coming down the stretch in that tournament, he was watching the scores for me so that I didn't have to do it. And letting me know that I could, lay up a shot, or the shot didn't matter, essentially, at certain points. Kind of stuff like that.
And I was just going to say, having that realization and that assistance early on in your career, I feel like gives you a legitimate leg up, just in that you're at that point, I don't want to just say well-rounded golfer, but you're a well-informed golfer that's taking into consideration a lot more than maybe some others do when they're relatively new to the game. Did you feel that way at all? Did you feel like either you were more prepared or you had any advantage in that sense, or you maybe weren't even thinking about any of that?
I don't even think that registered yet.
Okay.
I definitely realize it now, but back then it didn't really hit me yet, because I hadn't really experienced it. Like, I hadn't really experienced playing well without anybody there,
Okay.
It was kind of like, I kind of just felt like that's how caddies work. They help. They make things easy. But it's not entirely true all the time. Depends on the person.
And so that was going to be my next point, is I feel like ever since that point, you should have had a caddy for every single tournament you've ever played in since then, no?
Depends on if someone's available. That was really all it came down to. 'Cause, I think what happened was the caddy I had at that tournament didn't get in or off the wait list or something, so he still wanted to come and hang out, and I was like, all right, well, you can caddy for me, I guess. And that was just kind of how that went, because he'd practiced with us the whole week before that. So yeah, I don't know.
And so with that, you quickly, kind of run through the advanced women ranks, and then you're already playing open in your first year. And as you mentioned, or actually by the end of the year, I see you played in the U.S. Women's, where you took 36. You didn't cash there, but obviously you've only been in the game for a couple years at that point, or a year and a half, or a little over a year. And what was the decision like for you to jump into the FPO division as opposed to playing in any of the amateur divisions?
I won in the amateur divisions.
Okay.
So I felt like I should move up, even though I knew I probably wouldn't win at the time, just so that I could watch better players play. And it did help quite a lot, seeing how some better players tackle some courses in unique, different ways. Definitely opened my eyes a little bit and taught me that I needed to work on some better scramble shots. So.
Was there any consideration to stay amateur to play Am Worlds? We see a lot of players that will do that will, play very well and then kind of dip their toe into open but not take cash. Did that ever cross your mind?
Not for Am Worlds. I thought about it for like a week, but it wasn't much thought went into it, because I had realized that I would have had to have waited, and I would have had to have traveled for probably 2 weeks or so to stay up there and actually play the event, because it was quite long, I think, in 2018 or 2019, whichever year that was. But the thing that did actually cause me to not take cash for a long time was I played in a local match play championship called ODCC that requires you to be an AM. So I played as an AM in that. And I think that was later in that year. But I had refused cash up until that point, and then the very next tournament, I think I took cash.
Okay. So, yeah, you weren't necessarily concerned about, I mean, you were already winning, and it seemed like you already kind of knew how to win. And so maybe you had gotten over some of those pressures. I feel like that's the best reason for somebody to actually stay amateur, so that you learn how to win and lose, and you're doing it maybe with more confidence by the time then you jump into the pro division. But you said you wanted to learn and just kind of jump right in. Were there players, you're of the age and of the fresher classes here of disc golf, were there players that you were watching on YouTube that you follow on social media? Was there anyone in particular or any people that you kind of had sought out to either follow or to admire or to learn from, model from, any of that?
The only notable person back then probably would have been Simon.
Okay.
Up until that point and after that point, I had kind of watched his YouTube because it was still kind of in its infancy back then, but I was still kind of watching quite a bit of it just so that I could, take form tips and stuff, because he was doing a little bit of that back in the day. But other than that, not really. More recently, I've kind of just followed as many people as I can to try and see how everybody does stuff and take which parts I want. But other than Simon, no one notable, really.
Were you ever, maybe even to this day, have you ever become either a live or a post-production, like, do you watch golf at all? Has that ever been part of it?
I watched a lot, honestly. When I was newer, I probably went back in the archives 4 or 5 years and just watched everything that whole year.
Wow.
And just kept going, watching everyone play from, I think it was like 2015 and onward, because that was as far back as I could go on YouTube, I think. But yeah, now I watch everything as much as I can. I love watching. I'll either watch it live if I have the time, or I'll watch the post-production afterwards, unless I'm playing the event. So.
Yeah, and then from there, did you develop a sense of, I'll say, what like the big time tournaments were like? Did you aspire to that or that scene, or like what did you take from that? And maybe that's why I asked about, if there's anyone you looked up to or admired or followed their game. But when you're consuming all of those events, what are some of like the biggest takeaways from all of that action?
Oh God, that's hard to answer. I don't know. I probably took away mostly just form stuff. I wasn't really looking specifically at like how the events were run or anything like that, because I kind of had an idea that you wouldn't really get a good idea based on the post-production.
Sure.
Which is sort of true still, I think. Having played in them now, it's definitely true. But I would mostly just watch how people attacked the courses, and I'd try to look at the holes and see how people would get creative and see how they would throw those lines and try and take some of that kind of experience from it if I could.
And do you feel like when you were watching those, you also got a sense of what courses you might like to see or play or compete on? And then did that blossom into the idea of wanting to be a professional that goes on tour?
Yes, that is exactly pretty much what happened. One of I think the first time I saw Idlewild, I was like, oh, I need to go play that. That looks super fun. Even though everyone always told me it was like the hardest course ever. But after this year, I kind of don't agree with that. I think it's very fair. But having finally played that, it's kind of a checking the box kind of thing. And I don't regret it for a minute moving up so that I could.
Did you at any point second guess your skill sets versus what we see from our best? When I think of Sarah Holcomb and Kristen Tatar and Paige Pierce, Kat, all of them, what were you thinking when seeing them play, and how were you mentally preparing to be able to challenge them?
In the initial part of this tour that I did this year, I didn't really expect to be able to play on their level. It was mostly that I was just going to try and do my best and see what happens afterwards. And then after, I think it was that A tier or the Silver Series, after I almost took that down, I think it was 2 strokes back. But after that, I realized, wait, I can probably do this, and tried to just focus on what I'm good at rather than trying to copy how they play it. So it took me a minute to try and get to that point mentally, because I'd still not gotten there even before trying to tour. Oddly enough, I was always trying to throw the best shot for the hole, not the best shot for me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was it a conscious decision that Idlewild would be the beginning of your tour? Because I'm looking at your year, you started out like Idlewild was really your first big event that you played. It was a national tour. You'd played B and C and an L tier, which I don't know if I've ever heard of.
It's a league.
Oh, I was like, I've never heard of L tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a league tour.
Weird.
Did you know going into Idlewild that you're like, all right, I'm going to start my tour. I'm going to hit all of the East Coast events, and we're going to just see what happens?
Yep. That is exactly how it was planned out. I knew I wanted to at least get Idlewild in. I tried, I think, to get the one before it, whichever one that is. But it ended up not being in the cards, and I couldn't end up saving enough money to get registration fees. So I ended up just starting at Idlewild and finishing out as much as I could. And as I won money on tour, I managed to sign up for some more A tiers as we finished out. So
yeah, so let's take that next big leap, which is, what were you doing? You were doing, I have to assume, something to create an income and to get by. What were you doing for work, career, job, however you refer to it in the stage of your career? What were you doing? And then, how did that leap of faith come to jump onto the tour? You said you had to save up some money, but what were you doing? And then how do you take that leap of faith onto the tour?
So what I am kind of currently doing now, because I'm about to try and start working on that again, is an apprentice locksmith. So
okay, that's
a strange career, but
that's not.
Yeah, no one. You never hear that.
It's not strange. I mean, everybody needs a locksmith at times. It's just you never
exactly.
hear. You don't ever hear like anyone ever say like I'm going to be a locksmith or but somebody.
Clearly, we need them, and they're out there. We like you said though, it's just not okay.
I could have used.
I kind of fell into it.
Oh yeah, how do you fall into that?
There was an ad online, and I applied. That was it. I thought I might be good at it, and as it turns out, it's really fun. So.
Can you? Wow, this I can't. Like, are you good at picking locks? Like at this point?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Okay,
we're back up though. Were you good? Were you ever exceptional as a kid and could get into, the locked bedroom or bathroom or wherever? Like, were you ever exceptional?
Nope.
So you see an...
I never tried to pick a lock before getting hired.
Okay. So you see an ad and you're like, that sounds interesting. They pay money. Let me go check that out. And you were just hooked.
Yeah. It was plan B if this didn't work. So,
okay. So, I guess when I think, there's so many variations, right? I mean, you're all doing the same concept of trying to pick a lock or get into something or unlock something. Is that a broad spectrum then of you could be cars, houses, safes, whatever? Like, give us the whole range there. We have so many more questions.
So I was capable of opening, before I left for the tour, of everything but safes. Safes are a very, very tricky thing to try and do, mostly because they don't have like a key slot most of the time. It's a combo. So you have to really, really know what you're doing with safes. But I could open houses, padlocks, cars, and anything you really name, and I could probably get into it.
And you are going to be the most useful person on tour. I can't think of. I'm sure there's golfers that are
every weekend
that are
damn
locking
near.
themselves out of cars. I mean, just call Natalie over, all right? And
Yeah,
It's surprisingly easy to do too. That's the worst part.
that's what I was just going to
say.
follow
They're
up
going to be
with.
shocked when, because I've locked my keys in the car, and I had a gentleman come over and just use this was years ago, just use the wedge, pop it in the window, lift up with the thing, and he's like, all right, you're in. And I'm like, it's that easy to break into my car?
Yeah.
You know, most.
Yep.
Gosh, the last person just shattered my window when you didn't even need to do that.
Yeah. I can get into most cars in less than like a couple minutes.
So what's also crazy about, as you said it's easy. What's crazy is you're not getting any special, and I think this is true of all locksmiths, and you don't have any special clearance. There's not like a pass like, hey, I'm learning a special code and a very hidden and highly protected secret. Anyone that signs up could go out and learn. I'm sure we could just be YouTubing all this stuff.
To be fair,
but anyone that wants to could figure this all out pretty quickly. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, but there is actually registration you have to get. So you have to be registered with the Department of Justice. So
okay,
they do actually kind of cover their bases and want to know who can actually break into anything.
To some degree. I mean, because we all know. I mean, if you secretly wanted to get into something and no one would ever know about it, like you could get in, or you could unlock a door that somebody else could walk through, and
you
whatever.
Can't just claim you're a locksmith, though. I mean, then you're just breaking and entering.
Exactly.
Different.
Yeah. Then you're just a normal old thief.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. This okay. So do you see this as of now being an off-season gig? Is this something you can travel with? Like how does that fit into making and or saving money to continue your, what I assume is now your dream of being a pro disc golfer full time?
So for the moment, I'm going to just probably do it in the off season. In the future though, I have thought about trying to get tools and keeping them with me all the time and just doing it, on tour, essentially. Just, I don't really know exactly how that would work yet, but I would love to do both, honestly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how that would work, because most of the time, like, say I'm here in Milwaukee and I lock my keys in my car and I need a locksmith. I'm going to go to the internet and look up, like, Milwaukee locksmith. And
Exactly.
If you're on tour, you're not going to pop up. You'll just be the locksmith on tour. I mean, just we have so many. What you got to do is just start throwing keys in vans and shutting them. Like, Conrad, I don't know how that happened. $100 to let you back in.
You're like, oh, did someone lose their keys on the course? Oh well.
She's just lifting keys.
Yeah, I got to learn how to pickpocket too.
Yeah,
I mean, get the full gamut.
Stop letting us be a bad influence in any way. We're too stupid for all that. Okay, so. Off season and yeah, that would be really cool. I think it's great just for literally then everyone to know that under certain provisions and allowances, the fact that you could be a go-to resource, I do think highly increases your stock value out there on the tour. I mean, if you're the go-to person as the most knowledgeable one, I mean, I think that's great. What a resource to have. What's the dumbest thing that you've seen or heard when it comes to locksmithing and locks and such? What's the dumbest thing you've encountered in any capacity?
Or most embarrassing?
Yeah.
The most embarrassing. We'll start there. I was called out to open someone's car, and their sunroof was open.
So like wide open, like they could have just crawled in, or
yeah, it was completely open. You could have crawled right in.
Oh my gosh!
Not have taken time. Yeah.
Did you say anything when you got there?
About it, oh yeah. I mean, it took us a few minutes to realize it was. So I had been working on the door for probably 10 minutes or so, because it was a high top truck, lifted truck, so I had to get stools and everything. And then they got in the bed of the truck, and realized, oh wait, the top's open. I don't need your help, but you've been trying for 15 minutes now, and oh god, it was a mess. That was probably the silliest situation I've been in.
So was it awkward as of like, well, am I still paying you, or is there a a show up fee?
Anyway, so he ended up paying me because I had pulled my tools out and did actually try to do the job. So yeah.
Man. All right.
It's a very weird system.
So far, maybe you have somewhat limited knowledge, or maybe you don't due to training and whatnot. So far, what is the easiest vehicle for either a locksmith or a thief to get into? Who do you give like the worst grade to?
Anything older with the vertical locks in the top of the door, because then you can make a tool that can open them in seconds.
Okay.
So it's usually older Hondas. Anything like pre-2000.
Oh.
And is that why Hondas are one of the most stolen? I think the Honda Civic for like ever, or Accord maybe, was like the number
Civic
one.
Was for a while.
Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, it's so easy to get into them. I mean, you could do it with a piece of string most of the time.
Now it's Kias, and
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, there's some other car that's just.
I feel like it'd be rude to end this early, but I really want to go to YouTube and like learn how to do all this now.
I got a lock picking set for my son as a gift, like just one of the like a padlock. So I think it's a 4-tumbler or something that's clear, so he can look into it when he's doing it. Pretty fun. So.
Yeah, I've thought about getting some padlocks and bringing my picks with me on the courses, so that when there's backups, I could just sit there and just fiddle with it.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we see a lot of unique things. You know, Kat with her crossword puzzles often, and Simon playing the snake game on some old phone. I've seen quite a few things.
Who was it that was playing the brain game? That was
the FPO division at Portland.
Just the card game, that they were all playing.
Yeah, Spot It. Yeah. Anyway. All right, so that's off-season chatter. So that's what we'll say your ultimate fallback, which I guess is great, right? Because everybody's going to continue to lock themselves out of stuff.
Oh yeah, I will always have a job if I ever need it. Basically,
is that what you'd call job security?
I mean, yeah. Oh, it took me a second to realize that's such a good one.
Do not encourage him.
Oh my God.
Do not encourage him.
I'm just saying. Oh my God. Anyway, so something you could always do and potentially even do on the road. Love it. What is the game plan? I saw your post about, your new rating as of last week and whatnot. What is the game plan for you and your professional disc golf career?
So actually a couple of days ago, it was yesterday, literally. I was down after winning the event, the A tier, I went over to Greensboro, which is like 2.5 hours to the west, and looked at a van. So I'm potentially going to be buying that in the next probably week or two, and building it out slowly over the off season. And then after that, it's just full-time tour, go as long as I can.
Awesome. First of all, that's congratulations on even the thought and the leap and everything else. When we've seen that become kind of the new standard for the most part on the tour, and we think about all the individuals that have taken on that lifestyle and have gone that specific route, obviously it makes a lot of sense economically. Will your van, when you say build out, we've seen all different versions of that. Is there a van that's on the tour that we might be familiar with that you see yourself modeling it after, as in like basically what amenities, what kind of function are you looking to have in this van?
So we're going to be kind of like me and my partner are both going to be going next year if we can. He's going to try and get a remote job so we can both live in it.
Okay.
So kind of, big bed. Plenty of storage. We're going to get running water. We're going to get solar. We're going to get basically as much as we can to make it comfortable. And past that, we're going to do all of it custom ourselves. We're looking into a lot of tutorials right now into doing the electrical and all that by ourselves. So that's going to be a whole undertaking. But I've had some experience with that in the past in college. So I'm pretty confident we can do it. It's just going to be getting the money together and buying all the materials.
And that was going to be a question. We see a lot of parents, dads, usually specifically it's dads, but we've seen parents help with the build outs. We've seen friends, family, neighbors, step parents, just about everyone at some point getting involved in it. And that was going to be my follow up is how confident between you and your partner do you feel like you have this on lockdown. Will you have to go buy a bunch of the tools, some of the tools? What kind of resources do you have?
So my parents actually have probably all the tools we will need.
Nice.
So I won't have to buy any of those. So we just need to go over their house and borrow them for a day or two to, do the work we need. So it's really just going to be raw materials, solar panels, electrical, all that kind of jazz, and then just wood. So
okay,
past that, it won't be too bad, I don't think.
And then last nosy question about that would be, what do you predict, or have you projected or budgeted for in terms of the overall cost on a van build out? And I ask because I know a lot of people are wondering, like, what's it take, to buy the van? That's obviously its fixed costs, but then what are you roughly budgeting for when it's all said and done when it comes to the build out?
So at the moment, we're planning on $10,000 for the build out, just by itself. And then we're just going to try and not spend that much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we don't exactly know because I haven't gotten a straight answer from anyone else either. So we're just kind of rolling with the punches, kind of.
Are you the type that will document it? Do you see making tutorials or updates in any, I'll say, either semi-professional or professional manner, or will you just try to knock it out and not worry about documenting it?
I still haven't quite figured out if I'm going to or not. I've thought about it. I don't know if it would come out good enough to be really usable for anyone else. That's the problem. I haven't really done any kind of film work or anything like that. So getting it set up and doing any of that would be kind of difficult for me, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And I think a $19 tripod and a phone, you'd be surprised. I feel like, a lot of those tutorial type things, because it's a stationary, thing you're working on and being in the van, I feel like there's so much incredible stuff that I've seen, even just dabbling with it. There's so many people that have put out great content that you can use as a resource, but I think that you could build out as your own if you're into that. It's become, I feel like there's an entire industry just within disc golf with all the build outs we've seen. Is there anyone's van or setup that you've seen or that, would provide any kind of inspiration to you? Is there anyone on the tour right now that you've seen?
I haven't seen anyone's on tour.
Okay.
I wish I'd asked some people about it, but I haven't actually been inside of anyone else's. I've just been kind of looking on YouTube for, general layouts, and then we've been deciding on stuff together as we, come up with ideas. So
yeah, again, I'm not often hanging out in our touring players' vans, but it's been just such a
Natalie, let yourself into their vans. They won't mind.
Exactly. Well, they haven't let me in, but I managed to look around. No, it's been such a cool experience in seeing, I think everyone from one of our early, adopters in Paige Pierce, and how she talked about one fan versus two, and then you see more people getting into solar and fully utilizing that, and then I think all the way back to the early vans, like Nate and Val when they first bought the Big Blue, and it's just watching this progression, and then obviously you're seeing them get wrapped and what they can look like. It's just been incredible to see, and so wish you the best of luck on that.
Thank you. I'm gonna need it.
Ace Run Production says anyone can do it. Trust them. So it sounds like that they've have some experience in it, and if they can do it, you can do it.
Wow. Okay. So if anyone, no, let me back up. At what point did you start having conversations with Prodigy or any of the sponsors? You're a sponsored Prodigy member, right? Team member.
Yes.
When did those conversations start? What led you to Prodigy, and how did that all become? I don't want to call it an arrangement, an agreement.
So I think it was after I'd started hitting 930-ish or higher rating wise. That was about when I'd started trying to seek sponsorship. And I sought it basically everywhere that I could. And got a lot of no's because I hadn't played any really big events. And I kind of knew that's what was going to happen. I think the only reason Prodigy probably got back to me was because I had someone that already was on the team that kind of referenced for me. So, I mean, that was, I think, end of last year, roughly. I played with her for a little bit. She liked my game, thought I was going to be coming to the next big thing, and vouched for me.
And then because everyone's deals are different, and we only ask for the details you want to give on it, but was that a 1-year deal? And did you start out on the street team, or were you originally put right on one of the levels of team levels?
So I am on street team.
Okay.
Yep, and it is just a 1-year deal.
So that deal's probably, is it ending at the end
Got
of this year?
Got a couple months left. Yeah, I believe it's end of the year.
End of the year. Will you be looking? I mean, are you going to be shopping around? What's your plan?
I'm not quite sure yet. I'm going to be talking with someone later this week about potential player management and seeing where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I'm not quite sure if I want to move manufacturers or anything like that. But if someone gives me a good enough offer, I'll probably take it.
Yeah, so thinking that you're on the street team, and now just recently, as in 50 some hours ago, you took down an A tier
for $1,500.
For $1,500, your biggest win, as you mentioned, over a lot of good players. I feel like, I guess pardon the pun, you're in the driver's seat, and certainly those are some great negotiating things to have in your back pocket, as now you're talking about moving into being on tour full time and then traveling around the country representing yourself and a brand. I feel like you're in really good position. Also up to, like you mentioned, that 942 rating. This should be a pretty exciting time for you, I would think.
Yeah. Well, it's also a very uncertain time because I don't really know much about the sponsorship deals anyone else has, because I haven't been on tour long enough to ask. So.
And you don't have to answer this, but it seemed like 2 people liked Smashbox's Facebook today. It was you and was it Disc Golf Players Management, DGPM?
Maybe.
Are you working with them?
Maybe.
I haven't officially started talking with them yet, but I plan to later this week. We'll see what comes of that as it develops, but I'm not going to say anything more than that, I guess.
See, I'll tell you what, they blew their cover, because the minute we announced you were going to be on the show, they liked it, and right away, dead giveaway.
And I'm not saying one of the gentlemen that used to help with team stuff at Prodigy maybe heads up the DGPMQ group, but maybe he does. So I'm just saying, we're not as dumb as we look over here.
We are, actually.
Okay, maybe we are. All right, so exciting stuff, and certainly shooting up through the ranks relatively quickly, and all has to be I just think how quick that comes together. 2018, here you are getting ready for a 2022 season in a van. That's dare I say, I feel like that's a lot of people's dream right now. Get a van, go out on tour, travel the country. Is there an area or a set of events that is particularly exciting that you've got your eye set on for next year?
Most of the big bomber ones, honestly, because I'm sure you're both aware that I throw quite far. And I haven't had the ability to really test myself on a nice open course yet, considering most of the Eastern Coast swing is all woods.
How do you feel about playing in the woods? I know you just mentioned your distance, but how do you feel about playing in the woods? Do you have a distinct disadvantage or any additional challenge by playing in the woods?
I actually think I'm better in the woods than I am in the open, despite throwing as far as I do. Because with the distance that I have, I'm allowed to throw slower discs. I can disc down to a mid-range for those 300-foot shots. And that makes throwing straight lines much easier.
That would make sense. So it's really no secret, and you touched on it a little bit earlier. You said that you've transitioned, and as you and I talked about it also earlier in the day, the conversation or a conversations that is out there within disc golf is that the I don't want to call it a scenario. The situation that everyone is talking about, some people seem to have a problem with that, and I don't mean to sound demeaning by calling it a situation either, but everyone is talking about it to some degree, and I'm sure you've received a lot of support, and I'm sure you've also received a lot of unsupportive things. And so I think one of the best things that we can do, as much as you're, of course, comfortable with it, I feel like putting anything and everything that you'd like to put out on the table, not that I feel like you owe anyone really anything, but we certainly want to provide a platform and a space in which if there's stuff that you would like to discuss or questions that you would be up for, I feel like it would be advantageous for everybody. And we all know people are going to make their own decisions. They're going to, be swayed one way or another. They're going to feel how they're going to feel. But does having an open conversations, do you feel like that could be beneficial to you?
Yes, I do. And I'm game for any question you got. I've been open that way for years now, and it honestly is probably easier for me to do it this way. I'd rather have everyone just ask me questions. I'm tired of people dancing around it. It's kind of awkward at times. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the number one question that people, or maybe thing that they throw out is, do you feel like you have an advantage, a distance advantage, a strength advantage, or anything like that? I mean, that's ultimately, I think, one of the biggest questions that people have when looking at you. You said it yourself, you throw far.
So I don't think I have an advantage at all. And that notably comes from early on in transition when I had first started taking estrogen. I got a lot weaker. I mean, back when my parkour days, I used to be ripped. And after taking estrogen for, year and a half at that point, I struggled to keep up with the rest of my friends at that point. And it was very evident to me at the time that my endurance was way, way lower. My strength was lower, everything across the board. People always call me a cheater, and it really doesn't feel right because I'm just following the rules everyone else has to follow. So I don't know.
And if anyone's interested in everything that you need to do in order to qualify for the FPO division, Mike Sullivan of the PDGA back in April on Twitter has a extremely long Twitter thread. If you want to go through and read it, it's highly informational and very valuable to anybody. I think we even mentioned it back in April when he originally talked about this. But there is a very thorough thread about a lot of the decisions and the reasoning and what needs to happen in order for you.
Yeah, and not to, of course, we encourage anyone to read that as well because of everything Johnny just said. But I feel like we can also specifically ask you, what are some of the things, and as always, if there's anything that you don't want to answer, we're not offended by you just saying I'll pass or no thanks, but if you're up for discussing it, what are some of the steps you've had to take with regard to what Johnny was just saying and the guidelines and that are in place? Like because I think a lot of people don't even realize there are some. So maybe you could explain those and then what steps you've taken.
Okay. So luckily enough for me, I had actually already conformed with those guidelines before I'd even touched a disc. So it made things much easier for me after I'd started playing events. But the guidelines essentially, I believe, is you have to have your hormone levels below a certain threshold for at least, I think, a year now. I can't remember if it's 2 or not, but it's at least a year. And then I think there's, oh, Lord, I can't remember what all of them are at this point. It's been a couple years by now, I think, since I was approved. So I just remember that I had to essentially go to my doctor, get my, records from them for proving at least a year worth of lower testosterone levels and submit them to, I think, the PDGA medical committee.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a little bit of a waiting period. They kind of come back and email you and let you know a doctor's looking at it to make sure that the results are, in fact, below the threshold that they need. And then you're eligible to play in FPO or any of the female protected divisions.
Okay. And Billy Ashton, for instance, is out on the board. We see a number of comments coming in, and Billy Ashton kind of reiterating what you were just saying with regard to quote her, she says, trans women also need to be approved by the PDGA medical committee for approval. Do you feel like, with everything you just said, do you feel like those steps are just part of who you are now and where society is and what you'll have to do? Is that commonplace? Is that common practice? Did you feel at all, what's the word I'm looking for? Discriminated against or anything like that in going through those steps and providing that information?
Originally, I kind of felt like I was a little targeted.
Okay.
But I think I remember working through it in my head after a while. Because I knew I'd already fit the guidelines, I kind of waited to be submitted for the PDGA medical committee and all that. But I think there was some notable event on Facebook that someone was kind of very heavily discriminated against regarding not the PDGA, but club members that she was trying to play with. And that kind of set me off. And you know what? I think I just sat down that night and said, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna be the one that's gonna stand in front of these people and tell them they're wrong. So I knew I had to kind of get my paperwork in order, and I knew that was gonna have to happen. So it was just kind of one of those steps I had to take. But I don't feel like it's super violating because we already have those records anyway. Like, it's not something that we really need to go get. It's something that we just already have and need to grab out of the files. So it's not really that bad, I don't think.
Are there, and again, excuse our ignorance, but are there any kind of, I don't want to use the word updates, but check-ins or updates or things of that nature to keep in alignment in terms of, like, is there anything that you have to do? I don't want to say to reinstate, that's not the right word, but to continue your proof and or levels or anything like that. Is there any kind of annual or biannual check-in or anything like that has to be submitted or taken care of?
As far as I know, there isn't.
Okay.
But for someone that's in my situation where I've, had surgery, like I can't produce testosterone anymore, so it will never be higher than it is now. So, I mean, at this point, it's almost not worth asking me. It's just, it'd be redundant. Yeah.
How has the reception been in your division, but on top of that, in the community in general? I mean, I'm sure it's a mixed bag, but do you feel like it's weighed one way or the other?
So the thing I notably noticed the most is that men get a lot more angry at me playing than women do.
I saw a thread today on Twitter, and I can verify that.
Yeah. But my local community at first was very hit and miss. There are definitely a number of people that sent me Facebook messages, sent me Instagram messages, anything they could to just spout hate at me for a good long while. And that was actually one of the reasons I was kind of hesitant to push myself as much as I have. Because I was worried I would get too good and then I would prove them right, At this point, I've kind of talked myself out of that backwards thinking, but yeah, my local community wasn't great to start. They've kind of gotten a little better because they realized I'm pretty decent and actually have some sort of backing now. But for the most part, the local stuff is kind of a toss-up. I mean, from where I live, it's kind of pretty bad if I go and play local courses alone sometimes. There are certain people that will yell at me as they drive by. Yeah, I know, go figure. But then an hour north of me, I can go play a course up there in a local club up there, and they love me. So it's really, really hit or miss depending on where you live. As for the pro fields and my competitors and all, not many of them have actually vocalized much to me, so I don't really know. I have inklings because my perception on that kind of stuff is much, much more elevated than normal. But I can't be sure, so I can't act on any of it.
Yeah, and one thing that I feel like, and of course I'm in and out of being on the tour, on the scene, and whatnot, and I'll admit I have not had in-depth conversations with people, but there's always the rumblings, so to speak, and the undercurrent, and people that want to continually we'll just say troll or pick fights or whatever, however you want to word it. And I've understood the perception. It almost feels as if you're not dominant or if you're not successful, then it feels as if it's not as big of a deal. But as soon as you start realizing some success, whether it's winning this weekend or performing well at a bunch of other events or winning the distance competition at the Throw Pink event, that's where it feels like the current, there's an uptick. And then people, like you said, people almost feel like, oh, see, we were right. And I guess my question to you is, A, do you feel that? And B, is that a matter of just, well, yeah, do you sense that? Have you felt that? Maybe as you've improved and you've gotten better, do you feel like maybe people are taking more note or taking more issue with it?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Things have only gotten louder since I started playing. I mean, it went from locally to, my surrounding states to now a lot of the East Coast. Getting just messages from a whole bunch of people, whether that be in support or in, anger. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, have you had an either an outreach or any conversations with others that are in a similar position to you, either privately or publicly? Have you in any way, because either your success or just your openness about it, has anyone else reached out to you, maybe confided in you and or shared anything with you? Of course, we're not looking for names, but has that role happened for you?
Yes, it has. A good handful of people, honestly. There are a lot of trans people that play disc golf, and a lot of them are afraid to join any of the PDGA and even the clubs. Like they're afraid to play, just because of the communities they live in. But I have definitely had talks with people, some other pros, some AMs. I mean, we're across the board just like everyone else is.
Do you feel, as of right now, like, hey, there's a set of rules that also the Olympic Committee follows and is kind of a widely renowned set of rules. There's a set of rules, you're playing by them, so in essence, everyone should just shut the F up that doesn't agree with it? I mean, where does do you get angry? Where does your happiness or frustration fall when you're playing by the rules that are set forth in front of you?
So when I know I'm playing by the rules, so any comments against me don't really resonate. I don't really care. At the end of the day, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I'm following the rules. I'm allowed to do what I'm doing. But the issue for me comes when someone starts to try and stop other people from playing, or get angry at other trans people that maybe don't have as good of a support network as I do. And it aggravates me to no end when someone tries to, discourage someone from playing the sport we all love, Like I can take the hate because of the position I'm in, but not everyone can.
Yeah, and the fact that you've can be a support system and a support network and a go-to person, whether you certainly probably didn't come into this thinking, hey, I'm going to champion my cause and be this voice for everyone. That probably wasn't an intention, but if you're someone that can handle that and then be that support network to others, I think that's incredible, whether it's bestowed upon you or you've taken it on your own shoulders or otherwise. And I said earlier, in having this very frank conversation, I didn't want you to feel like you
we're the spokesperson.
Yeah, we're the official spokesperson because of where you are, what you're doing. And so that's very much why I do appreciate you having the conversation with us, because I understand some people just want to be who they are, and it is no one else's business. But the fact that you're willing to answer questions and hopefully set the tone straight is very admirable, and we appreciate that. I know the whole disc golf world will appreciate that. Have you ever gotten the notion or the feel that it would be so much different if it wasn't a physical sport, as in if you played checkers or poker or really anything else that's not nearly as physical? Do you feel like you would be experiencing any of the feedback and the feelings that you've gotten? As in, is it just the physicality? Do you feel like that's what mainly gets people worked up in a tizzy one way or another?
I don't, actually. A lot of the comments that come forward my way that are negative, a lot of it is misogynistic in nature. Like, it's more talking down to women, and it's kind of that they don't understand why someone assigned male at birth would choose to be a woman, because they don't quite understand that it's not a choice. If you kind of get where I'm going with that logic.
Yeah. I can't imagine wanting to have some of the struggles mentally and emotionally that you've probably gone through at some stage in your life, and how you've coped with them and everything that's been your story. I fair or not, I love the line that says, I don't understand everything you're going through, but I don't need to. That's not my concern. I don't have to. You just have to be who you are. And I feel like I wish we could all live by that a little bit more. And I don't know why everyone has to get so worked up about so-and-so is this, therefore I have a problem with that. Just everyone is who they are. And that I don't understand. But okay, so that's, I don't know if that's good or bad. With your answer, or how I take that as good or bad, because I feel like a lot of conversation gets driven around the physicality of it. If you have, male muscle
mass
development or whatever, and
see
testosterone
talking about,
in earlier stages of your life, if that's stuff that is what works people up, okay. What is there anything that you'd like to see changed in terms of the guidelines, the stipulations, the application? Is there anything, the application of the rules, I guess I mean, is there anything that you feel could make it better or more concise or more comfortable? Is there anything that's crossed your mind?
The only thing I could really say is that I feel like they should apply to everybody. Not just trans women. Like, everyone should have to prove their hormone levels if I have to. I understand that the PDGA isn't at the level to be able to enforce that, but I do feel like that's how it should be. But other than that, the guidelines I feel are very fair. And I believe they're even about to get more strict. Because I think the Olympics Committee is changing their guidelines, so we're just following theirs as far as I'm aware.
Likely. And
the PDGA doesn't have the resources that the IOC has, where they can do all the research and thing. It's best in this particular instance if we follow footsteps.
Yeah, and I don't want to call it as a cop out, but I feel like if one of the largest sports committee related things that spans hundreds of countries, like, I'm good with their guidelines. We're not coming up with better practices that could possibly be implemented. We're clearly not versed, or just all of us, even as a PDGA group. It seems almost silly. Do you know the commonality, we'll say, of the Olympic guidelines? Is that a widely accepted? What's there's a name for those guidelines. I'm sorry. I feel bad that I don't know.
I can't remember what they are either.
That's sweet. There's a name for them, but anyway, Are those commonly applied in a lot of other sports? Do you know?
As far as I know, they are, but I'm not 100% on that because I don't really follow many other sports. I mean,
Okay.
I play disc golf. I watch disc golf. I am disc golf.
uh, it's gonna. I apologize. I was gonna look. It's drives me crazy that I can't remember what the name is because I heard it many years ago. This is obviously more and more of a topic of conversation just in general within disc golf. Do you feel like it's going to be either, do we have a chance to be more inclusive, to be more accepting, to be more kind and compassionate and just overall inclusive, or do you feel like that's not the climate that you're currently living in within disc golf?
I feel like disc golf in general, like the general rules and all that, and the guidelines and that all seems incredibly inclusive. I have no issues with that. It's more the people, and it really I think comes down to just where you live, because you're just going to get whatever beliefs are in that area are just going to filter into disc golf no matter what. Um, Other than that, like it's just your mileage may vary.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll admit, someone out of nowhere a few days ago reached out to me, and I think their exact phrasing was, "I know you can't speak of this publicly, but we have biological males playing in." Using their terms, biological males playing in women's divisions in this area of the country, and I was like, are they following the guidelines? I don't know what you want me to say, and I don't know why that's a problem, but it clearly has been a point of contention for plenty of people. What do you generically say to anyone that's reached out or asking questions or whatever? Do you have stock responses? Do you have anything that you direct people to, or any kind of resource that you commonly find yourself like pointing people to?
I wish I had resources that I could hand out. I used to a long time ago, but they're probably outdated now. I used to hand them out a long, long time ago, but they never work. No one
Yeah.
wants to read it. Like they just want to argue. But my most common response is that in any sport across the world, these guidelines being followed, no trans woman has dominated the field. None. Not in any history books at all. There's a couple notable players or people that have, excelled for a small amount of time and then they fall out of the loop, or they suddenly aren't as good as they were.
That's interesting you say that, because that's exactly what I saw today as well. I did a few Google searches. All you got to do is research on Google these days. No, but I did a few Google searches, and that was very much a response. So then I guess maybe outside of your favor to that response, someone may say, and I guess I said this earlier, when if you didn't perform as well as you did, maybe you'd be less of a conversation piece. But here you are, you've won this weekend. You're clearly coming up through the ranks. You've been involved now with disc golf for about 3 years. You're already in the 940s. And success is in your future. We all know that. So does that kind of make you this outlier, and unfortunately then maybe puts a bigger target on your back, because you may be this person that now shows up and everyone has their predetermined disposition, and now here you are potentially contending and or beating everyone else in the division. Does that in a weird way almost validate what they're spewing?
I feel like it doesn't, because I've put more work in than anyone else. I can prove that to you if you want. But I do field work 5 times a week if I'm not playing an event. 5, maybe 6 even. Like I will be in a field anytime I can possibly be in a field. And no one else does that. The other big notable thing that I kind of always bring up with that, I may be excelling, but I'm also not winning pro tours yet. mean, I may win one in the future, but it's an A tier. It's not a
Sure.
poor level event, you know. When it comes down to it, I can maybe shoot hot 1 or 2 rounds right now, and that's about it. And that's not enough to beat, top 10 players in the world at the moment. Like, if I'm ever at the point where I can consistently play above 1,000, then yeah, sure, it validates it. But at the moment, that's definitely not true.
Yeah, and I guess I'll say that's
difficult for anybody. Listen,
yeah, for everyone. Yeah, I worry that it almost becomes a louder discussion point, an argument, the better you get, and that's a tough spot. I would assume that you may be in, and maybe it won't be tough for you. I feel like, at least with the conversation will continue to lean that way. And I guess I have to wonder if you'll care. And I know that's a pretty big what if, but if you're 995, we'll just say in 12 or 18 months from now, you're 995 or you've gone on to be 1,000 or whatever the magic number is, and you're definitely one of the top women that is competing week in and week out. If, like I said, if you feel like that gives anyone else a reason to remain or to get fired up, and yeah,
I guess what I would say to that is if it is a big if I'm ever 15, 20 points ahead of every other woman in the sport, I'll move up to MPO. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they want me to do anyway. I mean, they're wrong, but like, that's what I'll do. Like, it's probably never going to happen.
Sure.
I'm going to do my best to try, but I don't expect that to be the case.
I'm sure you, like you said, you get it every day. What do you respond with or non-respond, or what goes through your thought or what's kind of your stock response, at least in your brain, when someone says, gosh, she should just be playing MPO? Like, what is your response to that? How does that conjure up anything for you?
The only thing that goes through my mind when I see that comment is, well, you only want me to play MPO so that I'm not seen. That's the only reason they really want me to do it. They don't want me to do it because they think that's where I belong. They want me to do it because then I'm irrelevant.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that I think goes back to my other point, which is, if you weren't performing well, I feel like this conversation is so much quieter. If you finished third from last at every tournament in FPO, people would certainly not be this fired up or have these strong of feelings. Do you feel like?
Well, I mean, we've had trans women before in other divisions, and the conversation has come up, but it hasn't. I feel like it's getting louder and louder, and that's probably thanks to you, Natalie. But ultimately, you're right. It feels like if it's not in the FPO, then who really whatever. And I don't feel like that's fair in general. It
isn't. That's just they're twisting their own logic to try and make it so that their views are the ones that are seen. That's all it really is. I mean, it definitely has gotten worse. I've noticed it myself too. Like, it's not just recently. Like, it's been getting worse for, as I've been getting better. I mean, I got stuff for playing in US WDGC in 2019, even though I didn't even cash. Like, I mean, I was irrelevant back then, but I still got stuff. It's probably only going to get worse too. And I mean, even me playing at, just a sort of barely outside of top 10 level right now, that's going to be enough to keep increasing that volume of those comments and everything across the board. It's just some people haven't seen me yet because I haven't been to the West Coast. So,
do you feel as if some either conflicted feelings and or uncertainty from other players within your division, do you understand their perspective Do you understand do you understand that, where it might come from? And if so, how do you feel about that?
I honestly don't know if I could ever really understand where it comes from just because of my background, if that makes sense. I mean, I could try to understand it, but like I understand how I feel and how I am. And I've going back the decades through my life, realizing all of the tiny little signs that slowly stack up until I ended up transitioning. Like there's so many small nuanced things that no one else really knows about because I don't tell anyone or no one asks.
What's the biggest misconception? What's the thing you whether it's about you or about your situation in general?
That I did it so that I could. Oh God, I don't want to.
Oh geez,
So that you did it so you could just crush the FPO field.
Yeah, that one's pretty bad. But there are other like kind of a little more disgusting reasons why people would think I would do it. Sure. And yeah, that one's kind of the most annoying to try and deal with because they just don't understand any part of it at all. I didn't transition so that I could, yeah, okay, we'll leave it at that. I transitioned so that I'd be comfortable in my own skin. I genuinely thought I wasn't going to live past 20 for most of my life because of what I felt growing up. I didn't know if I would have a place to live if I transitioned. There were so many uncertainties throughout my younger years that it's a bit harder to convey that sort of stuff just upon meeting someone. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I couldn't again imagine what you have dealt with, and unfortunately will probably continue to deal with it in some capacity inside of disc golf or otherwise. That's a whole nother, I couldn't even fathom. So really respect obviously everything that you've had to overcome and to be confident in the person that you are here. How do we make it better? How does disc golf specifically, and I know that's a really broad, big question, but let's start with disc golf. How does disc golf make it better? How do you feel more comfortable? How do more people feel inclusive? What do you feel like some of the steps are that could be taken?
I feel like people just need to trust the PDGA that they are following the Olympic guidelines and that the Olympic guidelines are good. They just need to trust some people that this is normal and okay. But as of right now, people don't. And they feel like they need to try and stop what I'm doing because I'm cheating. And that's where most of the noise comes from, and the discomfort. And I mean, I've had people in tournaments spectating just boo me for throwing good shots before. Like they just need to either educate themselves a little bit more so that they somewhat understand where we're coming from and that we are just trying to live our lives as everyone else is.
Yeah, with regard to divisions and the offerings, do you see any other suggestion? I don't want to call it a solution, but suggestion or thought process to what we have for the divisions, because everyone likes to chime in with their thoughts. I guess I'd ask you, do you have any opinion as to the way things are arranged right now with obviously our mixed pro open, and then our women's divisions, and then also all of our age protected divisions and junior and older age? Do you feel like there's anything that stands out to you as an adjustment that could be made or should be made?
I don't think so. I have to assume you're thinking of a lot of people asking for a trans division.
Yeah, which, I'm sorry, I'll just say quickly, I completely dismiss because I think of the small quantity for starters, and secondly, the like, just the overall segregation of that. It to me seems crazy, but I would look for your opinion on anything of that nature.
Feels gross.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it's in the same vein as just play MPO because they just want us to be irrelevant. It's the exact same. It's the exact same argument. They want us to have our own division so that we can just be on the side away from everyone so that they can keep pretending we don't exist.
I don't know if there's I think there's an easy way to ask this. Have you found specific allies, and maybe you want to call them out or not, that you don't need to, or maybe you want to. Have you found anyone that you feel has been largely supportive, vocally supportive? You said it feels like a lot of women have kept to themselves, maybe about the topic, or haven't spoken outwardly about it. Do you feel like there's been allies and people that have been very vocally supportive of you?
There have been a good many, actually. I don't know if I should say their names at this point because I didn't ask them if that was all right. But there have been quite a few. I mean, they're in higher places where they have positions of power. So they are, in fact, trying to change the opinion of everyone else around them as much as they can in the same vein that I am. But they have had my back in many situations when I was new to the sport.
I know you just said a moment ago about booing and or some reactions. Can I just hope to anyone and everyone out there that there's never been anything that's been obviously it's been either harmful or threatening or verbally abusive, but hopefully there's hasn't been anything that has truly made you felt in I don't want to call it legitimate danger, within danger. Have you? Hopefully, you've never felt that within the disc golf community, or have you?
I wish I could say I haven't. There have been times in my local community where people have sent me messages saying that if they see me on a course, they're just going to kick my ass. And,
wow.
I've seen those people in person before, and they just give me the side eye for the most part. But that's one of the reasons I won't play tournaments or any sort of local club event in my area. I just won't do it. I know that there are people out there that want to hurt me. I don't know if they would do it with a crowd, and they probably wouldn't. But I'm not going to take the risk of playing a solo round in the middle of nowhere where someone could come out in the woods and just break a leg. I wish I didn't have to think like that, but that's the reality of it sometimes.
Do any of these? I can't imagine how you internalize all of that, but do any of these situations fuel you? Do they? Everybody always comes out as soon as something
Chip
negative said.
Shoulder.
And everybody talks about haterade and haters be hating and all this other stuff and what it does for certain people and all those cliches. But does some of this fuel you in any capacity, or reach higher or push harder for stronger goals or anything like that? Does it fuel you at all?
It does. I probably wouldn't be here if there weren't as many vocal people, oddly enough. Because seeing all of that fires me up to beat them. I'm gonna beat them on the course, not by talking to them most of the time, because I'm good at one thing, and it's playing disc golf.
And picking locks, but
yeah, and picking locks.
Yeah.
I will lock you out of all your stuff if you, and I won't let you get back out. But yeah, of course. I mean, I can't believe that. It just kills me to hear that you have ever been threatened in any. I mean, it's all violence, verbal, physical, any even threat of it. Obviously, all is terrible. But the fact that you actually have to consciously think about where you are, what you're playing, just absolutely sickens me. And I just, what the F is wrong with people that they think that somehow is an appropriate response in any way, shape, or form. You said you don't play. You're less likely to play locally. have you ever thought or been concerned with the idea that if there's some people that are maybe in protest or within frustration of you playing, that they don't compete, in a sense, almost like a boycott of, well, if she's playing at that event or participating in that series or that league or whatever, then we just won't play against her. Has that been a concern or an outright problem or something you've experienced?
I haven't heard of it happening, but I'm sure it has. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's their loss. They're the ones not playing disc golf.
Yeah, which to me,
that's all we all want to do.
I know, and I think like
Exactly.
if someone takes up, as they say, that rent in your head, someone takes it up to that degree where you're willing to sacrifice not having any enjoyment for yourself, then yeah, like you said, that's their loss. That just sounds crazy to me. I can't imagine being like, well, I really detest this, or I don't like this person, so therefore I'm not going to go compete or play in a tournament or challenge the course because somebody else is also in my division. Like, I don't understand it, but I have to wonder if that is either a solution or a possibility, and I guess hopefully that doesn't happen, but maybe that might be a bridge you have to cross, and I worry that becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Which is too bad because go ahead.
Yeah. I can see it developing as I become a bit more popular, just on tour. Any smaller events I play, I feel like there could be a number of people that drop out just based on who I am. I know it's happened locally at least a couple times. Beyond that, though, I can't know because I haven't talked to everyone or haven't seen any Facebook posts and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is, in addition to that, I feel like it's too bad that we're always striving to increase women's divisions, amateur, professional, and everywhere throughout. And so the fact that in what is already a relatively underrepresented and a relatively small player base in the first place, that then someone would think, well, yeah, well, I'll diminish that further by not going, or I'll, me and others won't go, or we won't partake. Again, everyone I feel like loses out in that instance, and it just doesn't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I mean, the worst part about it is they haven't even really gotten to know me or asked me questions or tried to learn. They just assume I'm a certain way and then write it off, and then they change how they act around me. Everything. Before I had really started to be super out in disc golf, I played, in the women's divisions before anyone knew. And there was a defining moment when somebody told their community about it, and suddenly everyone treated me differently. Like, it's very noticeable, and I don't know why someone would go through the lengths to decide they know me differently because of my medical history.
Yeah, so my follow-up to that exact point would be, how comfortable are you that maybe it doesn't have to be an FPO player, it could be an FJ12 or a FA3 player or whatever, male or female, how comfortable are you with someone approaching you and having a conversation with you with regard to this sensitive matter? Is that something you're open and welcoming of, and you're gonna set up a table or outside of your van, or is it just a case by case? How you've been so amazing with us, but how do you feel like that plays out in person if somebody did want to talk to you?
I would welcome anyone that wanted to talk to me in a position, like, it depends on what they want from talking to me. If they just want to talk to me so that they can tell me I'm wrong and all that, if they just want to, essentially post a Facebook comment in person,
Sure.
if that's all they want to do, I'm not going to entertain that. But if someone comes to me and wants to learn about what I've gone through and why it's fair, I'll entertain it all day long, because I'd rather someone try and learn from someone like me than the internet, where they may get the wrong stuff depending on where they look.
How did you arrive at that level of either comfort or confidence or a combination? Because I think it's fair to say not everyone would be be able to do that like you just described. How did you arrive at that? With your background and your story and where you are now, how did you arrive at that?
I knew getting into the pro scene that if I got good enough, this was going to be how it's going to be done. I knew I was going to be this person. So I braced myself for it 2 years ago when I played my first pro event. Because I saw it as an opportunity, honestly. Most people wouldn't. Most people would see it as something that they'd have to deal with. I see it as an opportunity to teach people the way things should be, not the way things are.
Well, I commend you on that. I feel like there's an unbelievable amount of confidence and then bravery that goes along with that to be able to have those conversations and to be welcoming and inviting to somebody that wants to have civil discourse with you. Like you said, to come up to badger you or lecture you or feel like they need to just simply spew their point of view. I can imagine how you don't need that conversation. You could see that anywhere, but to have discourse with you and have a conversation, I think that's I couldn't imagine asking any more of you. I mean, I think of asking any person to say, hey, I'm somewhat of an open book here and willing to have a conversation. I think that's pretty incredible of you.
Thanks.
Right,
It honestly took a lot to get to this point, just mentally. Because for the longest time, I didn't want to tell anyone because I knew it would target me. But getting through that, I eventually came to see it as the opportunity it is. So.
I want to go out on more of a high note. I'm thinking about your van. What's the most exciting thing about your van? What are you most? It could be
a flat screen.
A tiny flat screen. Maybe
the biggest toilet on tour. I'm just saying, there's a lot of flexes you could go with.
That's true. What are you most excited to put into your van? Maybe it's something that's unique to you. I don't know.
Okay, so I was talking with my boyfriend last night on the phone for 5 hours or something like that while we worked out where we wanted all this stuff to go. And we realized we had a 3 by 3 foot just empty space kind of next to the door. And we realized we could put anything there. And I had the bright idea of putting a smaller little bench there across from a table. And he didn't like that because then we would sacrifice on having a drawer there instead. So I thought of the great idea of doing one of those Bruce Almighty drawers that sticks out way farther than it looks like it should, and it's 3 feet long, sticking out of a little tiny bench. That's my favorite part so far.
All right, I like that.
Okay, fair enough.
Just to see the look on everyone's face when they put no, it's what are you looking for? No, it's in the drawer, and watching him just all the way out.
It'll go all the way to the front seat if we wanted to.
If you are okay with it, I would like to, and Johnny, I know you've been a little bit more active on reading the chat. If you're okay with it, I wanted to quickly peruse the chat, which I'm sure has had probably some very legitimate statements and probably some not so legitimate statements. But
I want to say this out loud. I'm very happy with how the chat has been. It's been very respectful. I've only had to block one person, and I think that
actually makes me feel pretty nice inside. I was worried about that, honestly.
And not clearly, as I'm sure you understand, not everyone agrees, but at least they're being relatively respectful. So I'm I'm okay with that.
Well, good. And
That's
so,
all I can ask for.
yeah, I was going to say, and thank you to our incredible Smashies and the people that are watching and following along as we're all kind of, wading through what I think it's fair to say is a delicate and difficult subject to openly discuss. But I was just going to read, and I didn't know if you had seen anything else that was on the board, Johnny, that if there was a legitimate question or...
No, if there was, I stole it.
Okay. That's how we normally roll.
I mean,
Just reword it and pass it off as if it was one of our own. And that's what we love our live chatters. That's one of the many reasons why we love them so much. Okay. So if you didn't feel like there was anything...
There's no.
Okay.
I mean, unless you're a Braves or an Astros fan, I'm not sure.
I don't know if you want to divide anyone else in any other ways, but...
Oh, Lord. I don't follow either.
Okay. Fair enough. And there's some, plenty of very kind statements that have certainly come in, and again, we appreciate everyone that's been out there and been a part of it. I don't know that I have anything else for you, or that we have any other questions. I mean, I can't reiterate enough times that we just so much applaud and appreciate you for being this open book and having these conversations. I said it earlier today that there should be a disclaimer. Johnny and I are two white middle-aged men from Wisconsin, and not that we're idiots, but sometimes delicate subjects don't always come across even as compassionate as we want them to, and so we're just so blessed to have you. And first and foremost, we really wanted to celebrate your win. Smashbox is all about having lots of different people, including the winners from the weekend. So this all kind of tied together just so perfectly to be able to get to know you better, get to know your history between the parkour and the
lock picking.
If you could just combine it, like there's like a set of locks that you like have to like.
My whole background's basically like the rogue in any kind of RPG.
There we go. Now you're talking my language.
But I can't thank you enough, and I hope we touched on things that people maybe have been burning with inside, or maybe they thought one way and now realize another. Whatever the case might be, you to be that spokesperson, intended or not, but for you to be that spokesperson to address some of these questions that I think a lot of people understandably have. We just appreciate you so incredibly much, and thank you for sharing what you have. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even express how amazing it is for you guys to even have me on.
We have the easy job here.
You might think that, but you also took a pretty big leap yourselves, because this opened you up just the same as it opened me. So I thank you for having me.
Well, absolutely. Well, again, congratulations on this weekend. We wish you nothing but the best of success, and we hope that your van build out and all that stuff goes as planned, and that you're all fully saved up and ready to hit the tour, and who knows, we're going to probably see some big things coming next year from you, and if there is any kind of sponsorship announcement, whether that's a re-signing with Prodigy or
I mean, why limit yourself? Or get as many sponsors as you can.
Whatever it might be, I'm sure we'll be discussing it. We love to give everyone the updates as free agency and the entire sponsorship negotiations roll through the off season. So whenever there's something finalized on your end, if you want to share it directly, or maybe we'll see it in another headline, but we're glad to continue to follow your story. So with all of that, Natalie, we thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully your first time on Smashbox wasn't so bad. It'll never probably be this in-depth again, but we are so thankful and honored for you to share everything you did with us, and we appreciate it, and hopefully everybody's a little bit wiser and more understanding and maybe a little more compassionate as a result of it.
Yeah, I will do anything and everything I can in the future as well. Thank you for having me.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Natalie.
Have a good night.
Good night.
See ya.
You as well.
Go break into something. Wow, how incredible! What
I'm
two of the most unique things we've ever heard on the show being parkour and locksmith.
Do you know how happy I am that now Natalie was on our live coverage at one point.
Yep.
Usually Mo is really good about pulling those little things out.
Those tidbits.
Those little tidbits. He missed it completely. He missed the mark. I should go back and watch Stafford and laugh at whatever his bioblast was for Natalie because he missed it.
I feel like
this is for you, Mo.
I feel like one of them probably was like something about she won 5 out of 6 events she played at the beginning of the year or something like that. You know, some of those things. But we got the goods, the good stuff. Parkour and locksmith.
I don't want to call her locksmith. I always wanted to say lockpicking. I know she's a locksmith, but
no.
it's lockpicking sounds way more fun.
Locksmith is refined. It's professional.
It is. It's professional, but that's why I don't. That's why I don't want to use it. I want to call her a lockpicker.
All right. Well, Wes Warren, we appreciate it.
Huge shout out,
Insane
Wes.
super chat. We appreciate that so much, Wes. Thank you, and thank you to all of you guys. I will quickly reiterate. Part of our disc golf community that we hope to foster and embrace and love is the fact that we have so many respectful people, and Natalie has said it. Not everyone's going to always agree, and you may or may not understand everything that's going on. And I think at the end of the day, you need to, love everyone and be compassionate, and you don't have to understand everything, and respectful. You don't have to. I can't utter that enough. And I think as she discussed, there is some uncertainties out there, and some people have these various feelings, and just as some people may not understand her, she doesn't understand how other people could feel that way. And I don't think it is necessarily like a black and white conversation. I understand where some people are coming from in some of the frustrations that they arise, but I think that all has to be part of a civil conversation and discourse, and not just blurting out some jerkish comment on YouTube coverage or Facebook or booing her at a tournament. Like, who's got those kind of? Where's your moral compass? Like, if
you're ever at a disc golf tournament, spectating, and someone around you does that, very nicely show them the door. just let them know it's not an acceptable solution.
I can't imagine booing any golfer. Short of the time I saw Wysocki kick a dog 2 fairways over. No, I'm just kidding. I just can't imagine booing a disc. You want to not clap, okay, but booing a disc golfer? Give me a break.
It's so strange booing an individual person versus like
a whole team.
Because
12 people are great.
Honestly, because you're at a baseball game, your home team maybe has
just
gone
gave
through
up 7 runs,
and you know what? Maybe the coach decided to leave the pitcher in, and so the coach comes out. They decide, he's going back to the dugout, leaving the pitcher in, and they're just basically sacrificing him at that point. And if the crowd boos the decision, I get that. But like at a disc golf or a golf event, especially disc golf where we're such a small community, but like a golf event, I can't imagine, short of someone being an absolute horrible person.
Yeah,
there are people, individuals in sports I could boo, but in general,
they have to be a rotten human at their core for you to do that.
Yeah, like Mayweather, I would boo him right to his face.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
he's a horrible person.
Okay.
Yeah, just in general. So he's somebody I could see booing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, out on the board, a competitor says I got booed accepting my trophy this weekend in Mobile, and I'm just just sickened to hear that, and I'm sorry.
I mean, because there's the usually laughable jokes about being a sandbagger that we've seen with people, where if there are boo birds out there, then it's usually, that's kind of what they're called,
Okay.
Then then it's like, if for instance you went out and won like an AM3 event, people might be like, come on, Terry, boo. Booing a legitimate competitor makes zero sense to me.
All right. Well, again, between the backstory and the additional conversation, that was quite a lengthy chat. Do you want to go? Do you want to end and then go into an after show where we could talk about other things?
Well, do you want to talk about the Beach Bash now, or would you rather talk? Is it more regular show, Terry?
No, I mean,
is it more after show? I mean, there's a distinct line here we need to decide, because if it's after show material, then it's after show material.
No, it is nothing too crazy. How about this? Why don't you we quickly recap a few of the other events that took place this weekend. There was some, obviously, as we mentioned, there were a few A tiers, and between the two of us, we'll quickly recap some of our winners and just give them a few shout outs. Jonathan Nicholson being one of them. I think he said his highest rated round of his career. If I recall, it was 1080 something or 1080. Yeah, his opening round was 1080. So Jonathan Nicholson went on to take down the Oklahoma Open, presented by Farmers Insurance, over Mason Ford. Congrats to him. Alexis Mondahano, she picked up the win by 13 over Emily Beach and her sister Valerie, to name a few. So congratulations to her. Solid play for Alexis. So we saw that for the A-tier action over in Oklahoma.
We can talk about the Down East Players Cup presented by Eastern Disc Golf. We obviously had our FPO winner, Natalie Ryanham, but we didn't talk about our MPO division there. Scott Conway wins this one in a tie with Dan Hastings. So congratulations, Scott. I don't know any details about how many playoff holes it went. I'm just going to guess. I was going to say 13, but
okay.
All right. I mean, maybe it went 17. So congratulations to Scott. Third place. Didn't quite get that Smashbox bump from last week, but I can understand the letdown after winning $30,000. Nathan Queen tied for third with Joel Freeman, Taylor Rafalowski, and Michael Joe. So congratulations to those. Seventh place, Tristan Tanner. Eighth place, Corey Ellis. Ninth place, Noah Five-Ash. And top 10, Paul Barsick.
And it was a one-hole playoff.
That's not anywhere near as exciting as I want.
It is not. And the top 2 or 3 in the FPO division, as we mentioned, of course, Natalie, and I believe runner-up to her was
Holly Finley. And then third place, Deanne Carey.
And then, of course, the
fourth
smashy
place, Emily Garner. Come on, you cannot
tying
leave.
the king, Elaine King, one of our Disc Golf Pro Tour commentators and the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Awesome. All right, over in Utah.
Our final A tier of the weekend is the 2021 Utah State Championships, powered by Prodigy, sponsor of our guest today. In the open field, Jack Kingsley takes this one down by 3 strokes over Alex Tews. Third place was Levi Hancock. Fourth place, Tanner Dorner. And tied for fifth was Ben Ditton and Caleb Kaplan. So congratulations, guys. Seventh place, I'll just name it because, Cade Filamahala, Utah guy. Everyone's looking at you, Cade. You're the next big thing is what I'm hearing. So don't let us down. Do it. In the open women field, we have Chelsea Howells taking first place by 2 handfuls and 2 feet, a lot over Tawny Featherstone. And then third place was Amanda Kasner. So congratulations to Chelsea on winning $592. That's a nice paycheck right there.
Ain't too shabby.
I would take it. Will you give me $592, Terry?
Nope.
All right. See?
I ain't giving you squat.
We'll see about that.
All right. Was that all for the A tiers? Was this event that I'm clicking on an A tier?
We had to. Oh, there were.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. There were a few. Those were the 3-day A tiers. My bad. I had to scroll down a little bit to find the 2-day A tiers. So we did have the Charlie Ventnor, powered by Prodigy. Winning that was Tim Barham. Second place, Tyler Horn. Third place, Cyrus Furham. Only one open women. It was Nina Guerrero winning that event. And then we move over to the 2021 Lake County Trailblazer, driven by Innova out of Eustis, Florida. And Johnny McRae, the ageless wonder, winning that one in open over Sullivan Tipton, Ian Burchell, Kevin Kiefer III. So congratulations to them. And in open women, bringing the boom sauce, Ellen Widboom, winning over Sandy Gast and Pam Flage Reinecke.
Widboom sauce. I wonder. I mean, there's hot boom sauce by Double G's Jerky.
Mm-hmm.
So
you'd have to assume Michigan.
Florida, Widboom, Widboom shock. I don't know. There's something.
I mean, a lot of people like, what is it, the Widboom Shakalaka?
Yeah, that's her official.
That's her
Instagram.
Yep, but I like the Widboom sauce.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that. All right. Well, we are going to wrap it up, and then we'll jump into an after show. I'll give you a quick recap. It's really not going to be that lengthy, but I'll give you a quick recap on the Disc Golf Beach Bash. That was a lot of fun this weekend. Also, maybe there's a few other things that we'll get into, but and we'll field questions and comments, and I'll further promote the newest disc golf guy released videos. Oh, the suspense.
Or are you just using the after show to plug all your stuff?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Geez.
Yeah, that's why I pay all that additional sponsorship money so that I can plug all that stuff that we got. All right, guys, we are going to call it. We want to say thank you guys so much for joining us. Stick around. The after show, of course, has additional conversations. And as we just said, we love seeing you guys on the chat board. So if you have things you want to ask us, we are glad to go over it. Also, in the after show, we give away a disc or some kind of item that's probably worth at least a disc or more. Somebody asked just this weekend, oh my gosh, you give away like something every week? And I said, every week? And then this person said, well, how much do you have to give to be eligible for the giveaway? I said, all you have to do is be a Patreon supporter at any dollar figure, and you're automatically eligible then to win something every single week. That's all it takes. So we'll have that giveaway in the after show. So we're going to call it. Again, thank you and congratulations to Natalie Ryan. We appreciate the conversation tonight. And for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been Smashbox TV Podcast 374. We'll see you in the after show. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's Podcast 374's After Show.
We're back. You can't get rid of us.
No, you can't.
I mean, you could just literally leave our chat or stop watching our show, but you won't do that.
No, I dare you.
You're waiting for us to say something stupid.
Or you're waiting for us to call your name as if you won during the Patreon giveaway.
Like if you were Federico Sorensen.
You did not win tonight.
Not yet. We haven't even drawn yet. You might.
You may. Stick around or wake up, Federico.
He's
what are you,
a
in
wake-up
Norway?
guy.
Yeah. Finland, Sweden, somewhere over there. I know at some point you'll be waking up soon and listening for your name. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. This is the Smashbox TV After Show. Not a whole lot of... we lack format. Our format is loose and available here in the After Show. So if there's things that you want to reach out to us about, maybe ask specific questions or conversations for us to possibly engage in or further discuss, please do so. YouTube chat room is a great place for that. If you feel so inclined, you can click on that super chat button. It looks like it's been lit up purple tonight. That's one of our favorite colors out there. Right now, little conversation, people talking about how someone said that more players should be getting into side businesses or side hustles, or I have an entrepreneurial, something in addition to them as playing. And I think you could say that of everyone. It doesn't have to be just a player, but you need some kind of special skill or product or something that's sellable.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, inherently it sounds like a bright idea because it is, but it has to be something. And Double G obviously has this passion and this background in cooking and preparing food. So for him, it made, that was a perfect crossover is not the word, tie-in or something to hitch his wagon to. So if you got something smart that needs to be sold, well, get on it. That's what I could say to that. All right. Where would we be without our moral compass? Johnny V. Larry says, I don't know. There's
is that like it's a general question?
Yeah.
Like, where would I be without a moral compass? Oh, I mean, I think about that as in
our moral compass.
No. I'm thinking
that's
like
how I read it.
I was thinking about it.
Unless he means without everyone having their own.
Yeah, like say you didn't have a moral compass. What are you good at that you can take advantage of people for? And I think I could, knowing my background, I could be some sort of
hacker,
computer scammer. I'm not so much a great hacker, although I've never tried. But I could probably scam some people out of some stuff, being computer skills.
Yeah. What was the most recent scam that I heard that was? I mean, there's obviously countless ones on the internet in terms of one of the most common ones, and I guess it's worth sharing because it is really it's so close to being good. A common one that you see is, hey, here's your receipt for this $532 purchase on Amazon or on some website. Here's your receipt for it. And immediately everyone's thinking, I didn't just spend $532 on Amazon. And so they click on it. They make that $532, for instance, a hyperlink of some kind or some kind of link. You click on it, and then you've probably just given the keys of the castle, as in your computer. You probably just gave some hacker somewhere access to your computer, or at least some of your information. But your natural instinct is like, wait, no, I didn't order from Amazon. No, what is that? I didn't do that. And then so that's why you're so quick to click on, like, what was that purchase? Do you get those? I do.
I've seen them.
Yeah,
certainly.
So don't click on those. Is what I could say there. There's my PSA for the night.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Natalie without a moral compass. I mean, be able to pick locks and parkour, steal and run, baby, steal and run.
I know, and just think about the houses she could leap to, and like she gets into the right apartment complex. Like she takes those skills to New York City. She's just leaping from house to house, apartment to apartment, leaping skyscrapers. And
I don't know if it's that easy, Terry. I think you have a different vision.
I'm just saying. All right. Neil asks me, Terry, do you sell your DG Guy stamped discs? Any understable Innova plastic in that mix? I have a very small smattering of Disc Golf Guy stamped items right now. I do need to clearly get restocked. I have some Legacy. I have very little Discraft. That's with a Tear Bear stamp. One of my favorite stamps. I have a little bit of Latitude and a little bit of Innova. So I've got, I guess, most, and maybe even MVP. So if there's something specific you're looking for, please send me a message on Facebook. And then when I don't see it or I don't reply to it within a day or two, send another message and then send me a receipt that I can click on so that you can just get into my app. No. Send me something to remind me, and we can take a look and see what I can find for you. I do actually have a little bit of Blizzard-ish or lightweight stuff that I took to Thailand 2 years ago now, and I did not sell all of it. So I do have a very small smattering of that.
Ray Zerhausen asks a good question. Maybe you haven't heard this yet. So Tom Brady threw his 600th touchdown.
Yep.
Did you hear about this?
I heard that he did, that he threw it, and then
threw it to Mike Evans. Mike Evans walked over and handed it to a fan.
A random fan, presumably.
A fan.
Right, a fan.
Yeah. And
yep.
And then he goes and sits down on the bench, and they show a picture of I don't know if it was the equipment manager or whoever walking over and basically saying dude, you, and he was like, oh, whoops. So they went over, they talked to the gentleman, he got the ball back. First of all, could they have just taken the ball back?
Yeah, I feel like...
Or would you look like the biggest jackass
you would
as a team taking that ball back?
Certainly. I feel like somewhere under some fine print on, say, the ticket stub or something that you paid for to get in,
it probably
says some stipulation. I know all media taken within there is technically going to be owned by the NFL and or the team. That's media in terms of if you capture the craziest, sickest angle of all time on your phone of something,
yes.
That is, that of course can be just taken from you, so to speak.
Anything recorded in the stadium.
Exactly.
Basically.
So is there either an implicit or a specifically outlined thing for something like a football? Maybe. I mean, unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, they probably have the right to just say, yeah, that's our football. Mm-hmm. Naturally, as they did with him, right? Then they offer him...
They gave him a different game ball originally, and then they also basically said, hey, give us the ball, we'll work something out with you for a signed jersey of some sort or anything like that. Someone was estimating that the 600 ball is possibly in the range of about $500,000 value.
Okay. That's the headline that I saw, and then I'll follow that up.
That's just a guess. I mean,
of
you
course.
don't know what it's going to go. That thing could go for $100,000. It could go for...
I'll follow that up and say maybe it was something tongue-in-cheek, but in the quickest of swipes tonight, I saw somebody say that Tom Brady sent him a Bitcoin. And then
somebody on the board had just said that as well.
Yeah, that somebody
is plugging that new cryptocurrency app that,
Okay.
So that
would check out at least to say, well,
that's 60,
currently, Bitcoins are $60,000 right now. Mm-hmm. And who knows where that will go or won't go. But either way, getting a free Bitcoin from Tom Brady is
kind of cool.
It's kind of a cool story. It'd be one thing to write him a check and be like, oh, here's $50,000. And we all know that Bitcoin could be worth $9 in a year, or it could be worth 900,000, whatever. But getting something that's, I'll say, unique, like getting a Bitcoin as opposed to just straight up cash, I think there's kind of a story to that. Because you go back and you look at the guy that's like, yeah, I paid for a pizza with 5 Bitcoins, back when they were worth $2 a piece, and now those 5 Bitcoins would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's
the guy did go online or on some morning show and more or less said, he's like, what I'd really love is a round of golf with Brady. And
there you go.
I don't know if he's going to get that, but
maybe. Yeah.
So
and now here's the next question. Again, we're also not lawyers. Quick disclaimer. Does he have any recourse ever? Now that he handed it over once, could he ever? I bet you get the right lawyer involved, there could be something dirty or nasty. I'm just saying, could he ever claim, hey, I gave this under duress. Again, I guess that comes back to the fine print of getting into the stadium. So I'll quit.
And it's on camera, the guy handing the ball over.
Sure, but he could come back and say, well, I felt threatened that if I didn't, I was under duress when doing so.
Well, we'll see.
Anyway.
You never know what's going to happen.
All right.
You would have given the ball back, though, right? In the moment, you don't.
Yeah, I feel like the pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
The pressure
and that's how I was thinking too.
Of the equipment manager or person coming over, and because I feel like when you hand that back, you're thinking, okay, they're going to take care of me. They have to,
especially if you know it's the 600th one.
What if he didn't? There's a possibility, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Would you be the most hated man for a while?
No, because it's 600.
He's going to throw another 30 of them probably.
Yeah, by next week.
30, I'm thinking 30 by the end of the season, maybe a few more.
Yeah,
and if he plays another year, I don't know. I don't think he'll get another 100 in his career. That would be, God, that
3 more years?
That'd be
4? 3?
At least 4 more years probably. That would be tough. I think that would be very tough. But does 600 lose value once 601 and 602?
As Ray just said on the board, Evans, with the guy that caught it, right, didn't even know it was 600.
No, but you're in the midst of a game. You catch the football, you walk right over and hand it over. I don't think. Maybe sometimes they're in the huddle and the guy's like, okay, this is my 600th touch. One of you guys are getting 600 here, But I don't see that happening. So.
All right. Then I guess does Brady say, hey, dickhead, like, you gave away my ball. You're on the hook for the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Why are you giving away my history, man?
You're paying the $60,000.
Exactly. All right. Dust goes on to say, where do you sell your discs at, Terry? Largely in person. There is a chance, working with a couple of amazing people down in southeastern Wisconsin, in Nick and Juliana. I'll shout them out. There's a conversation about potentially developing at least a lightweight version of an official storefront. I'm certainly entertaining that idea. However, I'll be the first to admit that running an in-person vending opportunity that they usually help me out with or do, and then having an offline and an online inventory without separating them is a huge pain. And also running them out of the same inventory can be disastrous and a huge pain. So let's table that one for now. But the conversation is out there. If it's remotely expensive and or collectible, I don't have it listed anywhere, and it's right up here.
It's a very safe place.
Exactly. All right, so real quick, before I get too much into
let's talk about the Beach Bash.
I just want to quickly run down the Beach Bash. Huge shout out, Jamie and Tyler Searle, ultimately your host, and just a lot of fun. Of course, reason we were on land with cruise ships and whatnot taking really starting back up yet. So they decided to still bring the party-like atmosphere and just keep it mainly on land throughout the weekend. A number of us, pretty much everybody I should say, arrived by Friday afternoon or Friday evening. There was a quick check-in, and then we all got together around the beach or out on the beach of where we were staying. There was a fire out there. There was also some beverages and such. Everybody had their choices to go grab something to eat. Then there was, not that she watches or cares, but there was a woman that went by, you can call me Lex. Yes, that's her Instagram and almost all of her socials.
Not the mermaid.
You can call me Lex is what she goes by. Just this insane performer. She was incredible. She was right there at the bar. Everybody was pretty much around just singing along and listening and watching her. So we had that the first night. Then in the morning, we went out to Anderson Pond is the place and played a course. There was a couple different tees and pins on every hole. Got to play a course. It had a little bit of elevation, which, believe it or not, they get excited about in Florida. There was slight elevation changes out there. We played that. We had breakfast and played that. And then we had another lunch that was provided. And then we went to Ferry Park, which is much closer to town. Anderson was about 25 minutes outside of town. Ferry Park was much closer to the Destin, Fort Walton Beach area. And we played, very short, easy course. We played best shot triples. We had 21 people, and we mixed up the groups, kind of separating skill levels. So we played best shot triples on the front 9, alternating short or long pad, depending on the hole. And then on the back 9 of that course, we played tough shot triples.
Tough shot.
Some players are not as skilled as other players. So tough shot was it could be challenging for some. We had an incredible time. It was so much fun. Gavin, one of the young superstars that I got to meet, Gavin, who finished 4th at Junior Worlds, had hit the basket on hole 1, like halfway through our round. We were on hole 1. He hit the basket. 2 holes, or was it the next hole? 2 holes later, Noah, dead straight on a line with a buzz, 263 feet, bam, rings it up. Just the most beautiful ace. I captured the near skip ace, but I didn't pull out my phone to have captured that. And it was just so much fun. Saturday night, everybody got to relax and eat and go. We kind of did our own thing, but yet still hung out. I had the most incredible pretzel at the.
I saw a picture of that.
Oh my God, it was so.
What made it so good? Salty and just
a little bit salty,
doughy.
Definitely doughy. A lot of times when you get these big any pretzels, the number one problem I have with pretzels is that they're stiff, they're rigid, they're overcooked, they've been sitting out forever. New York City,
stale.
Yeah, all of that. This was incredible. Sunday morning, everybody met at the pontoon boats over in Destin at Just Shoot Me, a parachuting company. We met at the pontoon boats. And we all ventured out on pontoons for a few hours, got to dock, got to get in the water, do whatever you wanted. We had an epic attempt at a catch from pontoon boat to pontoon boat where Big Germ had thrown a shot. Shane was this close to catching it, but accidentally went over. There was just a moment of scare. Because he was not jumping off to intentionally. He was just reaching for it and truly fell over. So there was a slight moment of scare, but he was all good. Then I posted it to Instagram once we knew everybody was good.
Yeah.
Do not try that at home in a situation like that. It ended up raining on us at the end of the day, which kind of came out of nowhere and felt really weird as we were out on these pontoons. And then there was a pizza party, a small fly mart on Sunday night, some beverages and some fun at the local in the hotel, and then everybody everybody said their goodbyes and did whatever on Monday, and we ultimately called it. So it
sounds like a good time was had by all.
It truly was, and I cannot say enough. To Tyler and his wife Jamie, and then anyone that helped keep things organized and all as a part of it.
And you got to be Bobby Brown's roommate, I heard.
OMG, did I ever. Bobby and I definitely strengthened our relationship throughout the weekend, and it was great. Quick side note. And maybe I'm ignorant to this, if somebody can tell me, and I don't have it with me. One of my favorite things, which is so dumb that this excites me, one of my favorite things on the weekend, and maybe this is common in either cruises and or beach resort vacation places, we had a wristband that then had the tiniest little chip, and that was all you needed to put up next to your room. So, I mean, in a sense, it was like every other credit card style.
It's common at theme parks or
I guess maybe it's just common there. And it was just a matter of doing that, and you just wore it on your wrist. And I think, well, yeah, because everybody's at the beach and doesn't want to carry a separate room key around or anything like that.
And then everything gets billed to your hotel room.
Yeah, and
not so much on cruise ships, because most of those are all inclusive. You just
sure.
go in there, and then as long as you're on the ship, they're going to give you something. They're not going to ask, "Are you a part of this cruise, sir? I don't see your bracelet anywhere." But yeah, most resorts and theme parks and stuff have stuff like that.
Yeah, it was. So that was just really nice, because at no point was I like, "Oh, where's my hotel room key?" It was always with me. So, yeah, Bobby and I had some great chats. One of my favorite parts about it was there were the people that I know and see and interact with often. Big Germ and his fiancee Jules, and Eric and Tina and Bobby. Those are all people I interact with, of course, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All of the other people I don't think I'd met any of them. And so, but by the end of the weekend, like, everybody knows everybody, because you're sharing all these moments together.
Wonderful.
In this group setting, playing a couple rounds of golf, going to dinner, and enjoying all these different things. And it was a lot of fun. So,
Bobby giving you any fitness tips?
I'm not going to say no fitness tips.
That's fitness pretzel in my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And Bobby relaxed a little and enjoyed himself this weekend.
Well, as he should. I mean,
as he should.
Guess what? What's the point of being in shape, fit, working all the time?
I don't know.
Me neither. If you can't enjoy it once in a while. I've always told my wife one of the reasons why I always liked being more active, or now that I'm working out, it's not so I can get, swole or tore up. It's so I can eat peanut butter cups at night and not get fat and lazy and sloppy. So I don't plan on becoming, Mr. America by any means. I plan on eating peanut butter, especially come Halloween. I mean, there's going to be a stack of peanut butter cups.
Peanut butter cups might have been consumed in our room this weekend.
They should be. Every vacation should have peanut butter cups.
So great time. Really, just I can't imagine anyone didn't have a good time. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. So thank you to all of you that I met. Thank you to Jamie. Thank you to Tyler and my roommate Bobby and whatnot. It was incredible. So this weekend, upcoming NADGT finale. That's going to be taking place. I think there's like 16 million people signed up, or 1,600, something like that are signed up this weekend. Excited. I don't know all of the details, for our broadcast, but I believe we're going to be live
at noon. I know we're going live at
we're
noon.
live at noon, both Friday and Saturday.
No, Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday, whatever, those days. Days are tough. So we are excited. We're going to have that coming at you guys this weekend. And I'll read some more of the details later. But the long and short of it is, this weekend we're going to have our last live disc golf. Yes. All right. Good morning from Samui, David John says. Hey, David, I hope you're doing well. Good to see you, and hope you're all safe and sound out there in one of the islands that is Thailand. Also, Paige and Alyssa were in attendance on Friday night. They ultimately then left Saturday morning to attend Bob Giulio's wedding ceremony with I believe it's Jamie. I apologize. His now wife.
But yeah, that was the viewer if it's not her.
That was taking place somewhere else in Florida. I forget exactly where, but I saw a number of people had that direction.
So Yuli was there.
Yuli, the Macbeths.
Yep.
Nate Heinold, and a bunch of them all heading over there for the weekend. So hope they had a good time. There's some. I'm going to put out this tease, and I didn't get her permission. Paige Pierce had some excitement and some news that I don't know if is fully shareable. So I guess I can't, but I'm going to tease it out there and say there is some that I thought was pretty cool from this weekend. So, but that's all I can say. I'll text her, see if she cares if I share it. Yeah. I think that's about all that we saw.
Something I've never ever been called.
What's that?
Johnny with the olive skin.
Ooh.
Just based on I think the lighting in the camera. They say you're looking a little pink.
Yeah, you also look like you're lower than me.
Yeah,
you definitely aren't.
I'm much taller just by the way I moved the shots. No, the whole camera setup got changed because we did Smashbox did some streaming this weekend for my wife's job. She runs a place called Gigi's Playhouse, which is a local chapter for basically kids and adults with Down syndrome, and that's what they focus on, but it's open to anybody with special abilities. So they do a fundraiser, the Brouhaha, and they last year, because of COVID, they decided to stream it. It worked out really well. This year, they kind of did a joint virtual and in-person thing, and the virtual one that I ran, and it went smoothly. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a great show, but it went smoothly. I think my wife had told me.
What about it wasn't great though?
The attendance.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, ultimately, well, there's a couple things. One, based on the location that we were in, I was kind of confined to one corner or one side of the room, so everything live came from one angle towards the quote unquote front of the stage. It was again, they had. It's just not really a great, I feel, and I talked to my wife about this, virtual experience. Like basically it's people there. They do, a fundraiser. You can get in on the online auctions. They had a couple of really cool things. They had like a $3,500 trust, basically that you get to sit down with an advisor. And basically, they lay out your entire financial situation for in case anything were to happen to you, so your child can. And it's specifically for kids that have special needs. So it's someone had told me that they had just gone through one and it ran them over $5,000. So they were getting a good deal. So there's that. They did have a signed basketball by Chris Middleton. They had a bunch of smaller in-person things, a couple other live auction, a yacht ride here off the Great Lake, off of Lake Michigan here. So some pretty cool prizes and just donation stuff. But it's just, I don't feel like it's a great virtual experience because there's no interaction with the audience. It's just, hey, look at what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I told her that. I said, if you want to have a better, I think she said that there were a total of like 12 or 14 people watching between the two platforms, Facebook and YouTube. Ultimately, I think there needs to be more interaction with a crowd as opposed to last year where they had a comedian. This year they had some mentalists, which really were just working the room. And so it just, I don't know, not the best online experience. I think they can juice it up next year, but this was really the first time they tried to do live and virtual. And
are they thinking about having me entertain?
No, but actually I was thinking about having you do MC.
Okay.
Because the MC that they have, he's okay. And I think that they could
You think I'm better than okay? That's a pretty bold move.
I think you're better than okay.
I don't know if I'd give myself that, but all right. I'm sorry, I'm just reading up on anything else. This weekend, I think it's not worth sharing. I think we can share. This weekend, I believe the plan is myself, host, along with Brian Earhart.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's been publicly put out there, but it will be soon. Shh, don't tell anyone. Exclusive content here. Brian Earhart and I believe Christine Jennings is coming into town as well. So it'll be a slightly different configuration. Sometimes we've had Dana in, and we've had a number of other people. Philo once was with myself and Christine. But yeah, this weekend it's going to be myself, Brian Earhart, and Christine Jennings. So I wanted to throw that out there as well. Thinking of studio setups, all that other stuff. One of our friends, Steve Held, who I think we referenced last week, maybe even here, did we see that locally his first playoff win or something moved on? Okay. Never mind.
Him and I don't talk golf much.
It wasn't golf. No. His son in playoffs.
Okay.
High school.
Yes. So it's funny. Both of his sons play are on the football team, the varsity team. One is a junior, one is a freshman, I believe, and they're both offensive linemen, big kids. Not like, it's funny because they're not big fat. They're just
Say
like,
husky. Say it.
no, they're like big in shoulders. Like if anyone knows Steve Held, knows he's just a solid guy. And so for the first time since like 1989, the Nicolay Knights,
Ooh.
which is where my son will be going. They made the playoffs in football, and so they won their first round, and they're going on to the second round probably on Friday. So he was really excited about that. So that's our local sports update with Johnny V.
Yeah, okay. Let's get into a few more things with sports. Just as the show is starting, we saw a post that was put on the disc golf debate group, so I expect it to fully go off the rails at some point. But the question that was posed, or the debate that was posed by Joel Freeman, he had stated that whole stats should only be counted within the top 50% of the field. If you have 100 MPO players at a tournament and 98 of them take a 3 on a hole, but the bottom 2 players in the field take a 7 and an 8, it doesn't make sense to consider this hole as averaging 3.09 for the MPO field. It feels like such a waste of time to put together stats based on the entire field because scores tend to be so volatile at the bottom.
I think that's a bad take. I don't think it's thought out. Because what if your top player took a 7 on the hole? What if hole 17 at USDGC, Paul Macbeth comes up and he takes a 7 on it, but he still wins the event? Do you count that? Why are you only counting it? Why do you only want to not count it if it's the bottom of the field? I think a better reference, and something I've mentioned here before, is that you only count statistics for 1,000 rated players and above.
But ratings don't matter, Johnny.
But ratings are
Let's get rid of the ratings. They're so stupid.
I understand that some people feel that, Terry.
Just saying.
But what doesn't make sense to me is when you have, I'll throw his name out there because I'm sure I won't care. Harold Duvall is playing hole 17 at USDGC.
Ouch.
I mean, because he plays almost every year.
Sure.
And so he plays and he takes an 8 or a 9 or a 10. And Harold is probably rated 910, 920, maybe 940. I don't know. No offense to you, Harold. But
P.S. He's not watching.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway.
He's in bed by now. It's 12:30
I don't think he
on the
watches
East
this
Coast.
anyway, but go on. Yeah.
Listen, I can have no. It makes no sense to count his stats in when versus a Paul Ricky Eagle. That to me makes no sense. I think you should maybe 1,000 isn't the right number. Maybe it's 970 because that's technically your open division and above. But I do believe that what Joel is getting at is the right concept, just the wrong approach.
Okay.
I think.
So you think he's on the right track?
Yes.
With some.
Yeah.
It just
He's on the
needs a
grass.
little
He's not quite on the
refinement.
path.
He needs some refinement to
Yeah.
what you're suggesting.
Correct. I believe that restricting the ratings just to your, and I hate to say like competitive players or your players that have a chance to win, but more or less your 1,000 rated players and above. And we're going to get to the point where eventually our fields reflect that, where all of your field is going to be 970 to 1,000 and above at pro tours and majors and all these things. And that's going to be a moot point. But until we get there, and as long as we're still allowing in 950, 960, 940, 970 rated players, and this is strictly we're talking for elite and majors and above.
Okay. Well, there's a great discussion that continues, and I just perused it.
Why is there discussion? I just literally
you just
told the
everybody.
I told the
I don't know.
answer.
They should have waited 2 hours, and they're like, "Hey, they might touch on this. If somebody randomly sees this, they might touch on this in the after show, and then Johnny will weigh in, and then I mean, he might as well delete the entire post at this point.
Just kill the thread and just point them to this podcast.
Yeah, I'll point them right to this time on the podcast, and that'll be it. Well, thank you, Johnny, for fixing that.
You're welcome. I'm here to solve problems, Terry.
Also, speaking of solving problems, in the next week and a half, hopefully for sure by this time next week, we should have the A-tier calendar in place for 2022. And that's exciting for a lot of reasons. Of course, we've seen the Elite Series events, the majors, those are all locked in. But the A tiers, I think, not only will they fill in the additional weekends, but some of those may be deemed as Silver Series events and or just events that people are going to make sure that they're trying to hit, maybe regardless if there's a DGPT event going on or not. But the A-tier calendar I know is being finalized and being worked on, and I'm excited to see what that's going to look like for our next season. And if you want to see A-tiers, segue, I just released an A-tier event from this year, the Silver Cup, which was actually bonus material. We were not originally even contracted. Is that the word I'm looking for? For the coverage, a couple guys worked together. We still managed to get action from rounds 2 and 3. The likes of Kale Leviska. Need I say more? He is featured, spoiler, in round 2 and 3. That is available. Brian Earhart and Nate Perkins recently, as in a week or so ago, laid down the commentary track for it. So yes, the event is from earlier in the year, maybe early July, but it is bonus coverage. It is out there and it is available. Round 2 is available. That is the front 9 and the back 9, and round 3 front and back will likely get released tomorrow night. So, and then buckle up, because over the next 2 or 3 months, as I've been warning you, there are going to be, I can't say hundreds, but dozens of rounds of footage that are going to get released. Some are you asking about the battle at Bedford, the Minnesota Majestic, Waco, even more quickly than all of those, you'll see the Rocky Mountain Women's Disc Golf Championships,
World
the
League
Minnesota
Card,
AM Championships,
USDGC. No. I'm just throwing out events now.
So there's a ton of footage, and that is all exclusively possible thanks to Patreon support and to a couple of extra guys, incredible guys, not extras, but a couple of guys really working their tail off throughout the summer for me and with me. So just know that stuff is going to continue to unfold and get released. So remain patient. And the next thing you know, there's going to be like, oh, hey, there's an event, and the third card is like super stacked. I'll watch this. You're going to see a lot of that.
Okay.
And a ton of FPO footage as well, in addition to the MPO footage that was captured. So you have that.
I look forward to it, Terry.
You better. Some people talking about, yes, Shelly Sharp. That's future action to be picked up. Oh, I think you missed an A tier. I think it was an A tier. Maybe it was a B tier. I believe Chris Kesselhoff, who famously won the NADGT. Let's tie all that together. He won the NADGT a number of years ago. Took down this weekend's event in Vegas. So I stand corrected. It is a B tier. It was a 3-day B tier, but Chris Kesselhoff took it down, and I believe Jen Allen took it down in FPO. So I wanted to throw those out. I apologize. I thought it was an A tier, but nonetheless.
We don't talk B tiers.
Yeah, we ain't talking no B tiers. So there you go. They're officially announced they're making part 2 today. I'm not sure what that talk about.
We're talking Dune, Terry.
Oh,
We're talking
Dune.
Yeah.
What do you think of Squid Game? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. So funny. I don't know if I told this story on the podcast, but the other day, it was probably a little over a week ago, I think I was down here messing around doing something, and it was kind of probably about 6:30-ish. I go upstairs, and the rest of the family's sitting in the living room, and my wife puts on something. I was like, oh, what are you guys watching? She's like, oh, we just started watching Squid Game. And I was like, It's my 12-year-old and my 9-year-old. And I told my wife, I'm like, let's stop it right here because I've heard that it's relatively graphic in spots, like violent. It's like a Hunger Games kind of thing. And I don't know exactly how appropriate it is for a 12-year-old who is a little squeamish when it comes to things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And my 9-year-old wouldn't care, but my daughter, she wouldn't really care. She'd probably laugh and giggle at it. But And I've heard good things about it, but I have heard one other parent who said she could not watch it because it was just too graphic at spots.
Interesting.
So, and I think she said she's very, very susceptible to things like, she hates like the Saw series, which I heard it's along the same vein of, these different competitions and this and that, and you die if you don't get them and whatever. So, so I basically told my wife, I'm like, okay, you need to stop because you don't know what you're doing.
Just because game's in the title doesn't mean it's appropriate.
And my son loved the Hunger Games,
Sure.
The books and whatnot. But so I was like, let's watch this first. So at some point I'll watch it.
Well, Sam on the board is saying it is not kid approved.
Okay, good. Then I'm glad I made the right decision.
JHS, does disc golf need an XFL type league? I guess.
Does it
what do you mean by XFL type league? Like how are you? What are the parameters, or how are you describing?
Because when I think XFL, you think a sub league, with different rules, maybe slightly changed rules. So would an XFL league be, hey, we have smaller baskets, we have different, disc allowances. So maybe, your disc, you can have a disc with like a hole in the center that flies further or something along those lines. I'd be curious to know what you mean by XFL, but I think we're going to get to the point where we have
entirely separate tour,
like a Silver Series style tour that pops up. The question is it going to be the DGPT that runs it because they have Silver Series now, or are they going to be focused? Because here's, and maybe I'm wrong, but most people were relatively fine with the national tour when it was just the national tour. You didn't hear a lot of people scream like, we need a new tour. There were a few people popping up, and people didn't love the tour schedule as far as the driving.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, there were years that was better than others.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Pro Tour pops up and has a better product.
Eventually.
Yes, it wasn't like immediately, but they eventually create a better product. And now we see that next year we're going to have a combined tour, and the Pro Tour has the Silver Series. Are we going to get to the point where people are going to look at the Pro Tour and say, why are you doing the Silver Series? You should be focused on the big events. You shouldn't be focused on these little ones. Let somebody else handle that. And are we going to get to that point where it kind of felt like that was the push for the PDGA and the NTs? Like, why are you dealing with the NTs? Just let the DGPT deal with the big events. Are we going to see that? Or is the Pro Tour going to be able to expand and be able to handle multiple tours, so to speak? Because you have the Pro Tour, and then right now, and as of next year, we're still going to see the Silver Series. I don't know what the future of the Silver Series. I don't think anybody knows yet what the future of the Silver Series.
Check back next week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm thinking for next year specifically.
Oh yeah, no. Next year we know there's a Silver Series.
Yeah, no. I know.
I'm saying the future in general. We don't know if
Sure,
if they'll continue to Silver Series or what type of thing they're going to do. But what is, will at some point we get to a spot where it's like, no, let Johnny and Terry take care of the second tier series, or whoever decides they want to run we'll call it a B tier series, even though that's
and I guess what I'll follow, I'll jump right off of what you're saying into answering some of the comments that are coming out on the board, which is saying with regard to Silver Series events and whatnot. And Galactic Conqueror says, where does the Masters Cup at De La fit? And it's got to at least be on the Silver Series. And then JH comments and says they cut out Beaver
State Fling.
I thought it was they cut out Beaver State Fling. Huge disappointment. Here's what I will say in terms of just a very, I don't want to call it obvious, but a very huge component of that decision-making process. Live is a staple of the Disc Golf Pro Tour and obviously then of the Disc Golf Network. If your event does not offer, I'll say at least a majority of it, does not offer live capabilities, there is a higher likelihood of it not being part of it. And right now, Masters Cup even after extensive resources and testing and tested solutions, Masters Cup not capable of hosting live. Beaver State Fling not capable of hosting live. And we are not of the pay grade to tell you every single exact detail of everything that went into all of the decisions, but we will tell you, because we're not stupid too much, that we at least know if live is not capable at your facility, at your event, there is a huge unlikeliness of it not being an Elite Series event. And that is something you can bank on. And I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying we'll never have it. We just know, because we've been hosting the live for 6 or 8 or 10 years or whatever it's been, 7 years, that live is a number one of the, it's not the number one. Well, it is a huge contributing factor.
The big question will be, we know the fans love Milo. We know
the players love Milo.
Most of the players love Milo. But if it's a Silver Series next year, and I don't know if it is or not, I haven't seen that, but let's just assume it is. Let's pretend that it's a Silver Series. Do the pros show up? I mean, if are you going to go, if it's at all out of your way? And I don't know where it's going to swing into the tour. If it's going to be, it could be right on tour. It could be right in line with it. It could be 3 weeks out, like 3 weeks past the spot where we're normally in Portland. Are they going to double back? I don't know what the dates are. I don't know if any. I'm sure some people know, but
check back next week.
Check back next week. And if the pros don't go,
well, let's say the top level pros don't attend, then I feel like that services all the other people that have been
dying to get in,
clamoring for years. I'll say bitching or whining or complaining that they can't get in because all the top level pros are there. It's the most competitive field ever, blah, 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 blah. And it could still sell out in seconds with, we'll say, 10-10 rated players all the way down to 940 rated players and everyone in between. And then are you just as excited about the event?
No.
Where's the excitement for that event go?
Are you excited to see the course, or are you excited to see the top players play that course? Because I guarantee you it's the latter.
But a lot of people would be really excited. Oh, I finally get to play.
Yeah, no, 100%. But that's all of 50 people. You've made 50 people really happy, and you have made 50,000 people very unhappy that they don't get to watch the best players play one of their favorite looking courses and their favorite courses. Now, this could be a moot point, because if it's right on the schedule and you're going to see probably a handful, I guarantee you, for whatever reason, if it's nearby, Ricky would play it. Just because Ricky wants to play everything, it feels like. So if it's a Silver Series and it's within driving distance of, in that area, I don't know if Paul's going to go out of his way to play it. I think he released his schedule. I didn't see it on there. But
correct.
That might just be, it's not announced yet. Schedules can change. Those
he won't play it.
No, exactly, because it's not a huge event. So do you care? I mean, I don't know. I mean, are our players going to go see it? The one thing, I'm going to dovetail this conversation into the Paul Macbeth tour schedule. He didn't have Vegas or the new Players Cup, Champion Cup. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the new major.
Yeah, the PDGA Players Cup.
Even you're not sure. I made you guess. Those weren't on his list, and I don't know if that's an oversight.
No,
or he's just not going to play. He's not going to play a major. Doesn't that sound a little odd to you?
It does.
I mean, do you have any more? I mean, maybe you do have more insight or not. I'm sure he's chuckling over there like you do. And I don't. I haven't called up Paul recently and talked to him about it. Is he just anti the format? That has. I mean, you would think that would have to be the major takeaway from his decision. If he's truly not going to play it, and I'm still not 100% sure that's true. I think maybe when it gets closer, maybe that major decision, wink, wink, is maybe that changes a little bit. But that's a big sign to me of what your arguably your number one player in the world thinks of the format.
Yeah, I mean,
he's one player. Ultimately.
Yeah, and he posted this 4 days ago saying, headed on a short vacation, so I thought I'd get my 2022 Elite Series event schedule out.
It's the Elite.
To all of you before the fun begins.
But he has the USDGC on there.
Well, that's
and the DGPG Championship and Pro Worlds. So you tell me what Elite means when you have two majors and the DGPT Championship, but you don't have the other major in there.
Yeah. Well.
So I think he just is using the term elite as in this is where all the elite players are going to be. I don't think he's using it in the true tier term. So I don't know. Terry, continue. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I just, yeah. I guess we can all simmer down and wait for the schedule to come out next week, and then we'll see who's making adjustments and what they're doing from there. That's what I would say. But Sam had said not to pound on why Milo more, but no Milo or whatever. But I bet a state park, the event cannot charge spectators to be there. Milo has a single entrance point in which you charge to get into the state park with a state pass, buying a day pass or a year pass or whatever. I'm guessing that they actually probably could. They'd have no problems being able to. And I don't. That's clearly still not it. With regard to the challenge, there's not signal there. I think that is by far the number one factor. And Galactus says, I know the De-La folks won't care one way or another. Really, it's just that some of the best players likely won't be there. And that's exactly echoed with what Johnny was just saying with Milo. You're right.
I don't know if the Milo guys will care that they aren't on as a pro tour event. Maybe they didn't want to be. I mean, there's something to be said about that there's less pressure to fundraise. There's less pressure on your event. There's less pressure for spectators. There's all sorts of other less pressures by not being on the tour. If you think you can be we'll just say an A-tier quality event that gets a majority of the big players and you don't have to do all that extra stuff, I mean, that's got to be kind of appealing too. So what I would say is don't necessarily jump on the pro tour like, oh, they cut them out of the tour. There are two sides to every coin. So maybe the event, and I don't know because I haven't talked to, what is it, the Jeffs that run that? I haven't had any discussion with them, but maybe they're not interested. I don't know.
And or there's not signal there.
I mean, ultimately, yes, that's from our that's from our perspective. That's the decision. But but again, if they decided they're like, yeah, we don't want to go through that trouble.
Well, yeah, and to your point, at a much smaller level, there's a lot of people like, dude, we just got like this sick 7,500 foot course. It's the best one in town, or it's the best one in like the 9 counties around us. It's like so stupid that Ricky and Paul and Kevin Jones aren't coming here to play, and it's like. We can't play everywhere every weekend, and if your course and facility and your local organizing committee are that insanely amazing, we will find a way to get there and or showcase or highlight it at some point. There's just a lot of regional bias, of course. You know, I can't believe you're not coming to play at our new course. It's like got like 3 water holes. There's like 2 par 4s, but they're really tough. Anyway,
it used to be it's really funny because it used to be where touring pros and just people in general were really excited to play these really cool new courses. I don't feel that's the case anymore unless your course is truly ridiculously a standout, like the Eagles Crossing. I want to say Eagles Nest, but Eagles Crossing. That looks like a crazy epic course that I think a lot of pros are going to be excited to play. But guess what? If your local town gets this great piece of land and it's an 11,000 foot course and it's really good, most pros are going to be like, that's not I'm not going to go out of my way to play that. It has to be epic at this point now, I think, to make a pro or a touring pro go out of their way to try this course.
Yeah, and
unless you're Simon just wants to play everything, or Avery Jenkins. Those are the two right there that are going to come play your course. So reach out to them. Simon will make a video about it.
Spock had said, would elevated camera positions make cell communication more possible?
Not unless you were elevated above the trees.
And even there, that's not necessarily a guarantee. I think about where Milo is located. I don't know how close simply towers are. I mean, or I know we kind of beat on this one, but look at holes 10, 11, 12-ish at Maple Hill. I don't know that it's just the trees as much as it just might be on the outskirts of as far as a cellular tower reaches. Just no matter just sheer distance and necessarily being elevated or outside of tree coverage. It's been crazy. We've been to courses that are 100% wooded where you can barely even see the sky, and signal can be amazing in those. We've experienced that. And then you can be out in the middle of a wide open field, but if you're just simply not close enough to a cell tower, or the right cell towers, we may not have the signal to make it possible. So I would generically say that I don't think is the ultimate fix.
And there's people on the board saying cell coverage can improve. It's been 2 years since we've been there. You're right, 100%. There could be a new tower within a mile of Milo, and maybe that's great, and maybe it would work now. But unfortunately, the decisions have to be made early before anyone can get out there and probably do major testing. So let's just play pretend and run a scenario where we find out that there is great cell signal at Milo now. We're like, oh, that's awesome. It wouldn't be until next season, 2023, where you would see Milo maybe jump back on the tour. But that's a lot of ifs and a lot of wishes and maybes.
Carney may or may not be right, because I don't know. The technology says it's the water in the trees.
That doesn't hurt. He's right. In a lot of aspects, water tends to be very difficult for cell signal to travel through, and with trees that tend to retain a lot of water and a lot of trees, it makes the cell coverage much more difficult to travel through. So that's why we don't do any underwater events either.
See, and here's where I think that all of that falls as BS, because clearly with everyone that, like myself, that has this 5G microchip that was put into me, I think twice, we're just walking cellular conductors the entire time we're out there. Like, I have now full 5G at least in one place on me, and if a bunch of the other people do, because we know they did, there's just like I'm like not quite as wide as a cell tower, but I've got a good base on me. So I don't understand.
You can stop right there. I don't understand. Go do the research, Terry. Do the research.
Good call.
All right, let's give something away, Terry Miller.
Let's do it. As you're pulling that up, Galactic says, I'd rather see DGPT Championship elevated to major level than creating a brand new artificial major with new format. Way too experimental to make a major for a grassroots sports. You have to understand, I find a tad bit of irony that you want to elevate the DGPT Championship to a major, and you don't like the experimental or the other format, but yet the DGPT Championship is not a standard
stroke
play typical format either. So I hope you see just whether I agree with you or not, I hope you see a little bit of the irony in your statement there, saying, hey, let's make this uncharacteristic or this unique format event a major, but let's not test it out with the new one. And I'm not trying to defend the new one or say one thing or another. I'm just pointing that out.
I'm going to be very consistent in what I say, which I've said for years. I don't want the Pro Tour event finale to be a major. One, we already have a major at USDGC like 2 weeks before that. It seems too close to have majors.
Or 1 week.
Yeah,
literally 1 week.
1 week, yeah. Second of all, I don't love that USDGC is a major in general. Like, I've never liked their different rules. When your PDGA still gives it an X tier status and doesn't provide ratings because of different things like stroke and distance, I've always said I don't know if that should be a major. Then, if I need the caddy book to figure out what happens when I do something different on a different hole, I hate that. And USDGC, I think it's a great event. It's run phenomenally. It provides so much drama, but I don't necessarily know if it's the right viewing for our sport. I love Worlds. I think if you're going to have a major, it should be based on your standard rules, and it should be stroke play. If you're going to count it as a major, like I don't think the match play event should be a major.
It was in Crystal River in 2010.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I get. Let me step that back. Maybe you could have a match play major.
Okay.
If the whole event obviously is match play. But I think USDGC particularly is a little odd because it's stroke play, but it's stroke play with weird rules. At least a match play is an entirely different format. I'll put it that way. Having an entirely different format, I could maybe make that argument where, oh cool, we've got a match play major. You could have a doubles event major. You could have but having USDGC just be a little different and a little weird has always made me feel a little awkward about it. And like I said, I like the event. I think it's run phenomenally, and like I said, it provides a ton of drama, and it's a great spectator event. It doesn't necessarily mean I think it's the best showing for our sport.
Well, I will save you a little.
Take.
I'll save you a little heartache and hours of arguing with Big Germ, because one of the lengthy discussions that took place was this very thing with Eric Oakley and Big Germ this weekend, and it carried on for some time. And I won't rehash it all, but
let me guess, Germ thinks it should be a major, and Oakley said it shouldn't. Along those lines.
I guess the short end of the short side of the conversation, or the abbreviated version, was just that Germ likes and or loves that all the experimental and unique rules are in fact applied at the event. The stroke and distance, the various rules, blah blah blah, the sticks and the OB flags and the island greens and all that stuff. He likes all of that, and Eric Oakley very much. He said almost verbatim what you said, which is we're using rules, and so many different rules, to the point that it doesn't even count toward your rating, and therefore he does not love that component of it.
And I think USDGC could be an awesome, huge, well-loved event. I'm saying it doesn't,
which it already is.
It doesn't have to be a major. If you took the M away from it, you're going to get 90% of the top players to still go there. 95, especially when you have the payouts that you have. $15,000 for first place, maybe more next year, and this and that. Like, it's still going to be a phenomenal event. It's still going to be catered right to the players. It's still going to be attended.
Sure.
I'm just can't believe I'm saying this. I'm with Eric Oakley here in that I don't even mind the sticks. I don't mind the course changes. I don't like the change in rules. Like, triple mandos are in the rule book. I may not love them, but you can put them in. But telling somebody that, oh, if you go OB here, it's stroke and distance here. If you go OB here, it's hazard here. Like, that's what kills me. That's what always eats me up a little bit inside about USDGC. But it's a great event, fun people.
Well, the good news is you'll never play it again.
You're right. I never will. Well, all right, if it's not a major, maybe someday I will.
No, they won't let you.
That's really my secret.
Won't let you.
That's really my secret, is I'm trying to get it to unmajor so I can get back in somehow.
You want it to get demoted so that somehow you could be there.
That's right. So I can secretly come in and play.
And then your next post should be, damn it, if we played by all the old rules.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, patreon.com/smashboxtv. If you get any value out of our ramblings, our phenomenal guests and interviews like we had today, please feel free to either give us a nice super chat or subscribe on Patreon. Patreon.com/smashboxtv. You can be eligible for our weekly giveaway. So, Terry, we have got about 185, I believe is the number. I'm scrolling to the bottom at 185. I sorted it by date that they signed up for Patreon.
All right. Some very early adopters.
Yep.
We love you all.
Yep.
Anytime you jumped in, we love you. We appreciate it. All right. With that, we will go ahead. What is the 27th? All right. Here's what we're going to do.
Oh, great. Tell me what we're going to do.
Paige and Grady Shue just celebrated their 2-year anniversary. On the same day, Nate Doss and Valerie Jenkins celebrated their 7-year wedding anniversary. So, with that, can we split that difference to 4.5?
Yeah,
To the number 4.5? That doesn't make sense. Let's go with the number 4.
The number 4. All right. So the number 4.
No, number 5. It's got to be 5. It's got to be 5. I put it in Instagram. If you add up Paige's and Val's.
All right, you can stop right there.
If you add up their world championships, they have 5 between the two.
Our second number is 97.
That's open worlds, of course. They have other worlds.
Our third number is 24. Our fourth number is 100.
One more, baby.
So our next number will be our Patreon giveaway for the night. The lower the number,
the longer they've supported.
The longer you've been a supporter. The higher the number, the less time you've been
We love you all.
But we do love you all.
The lower numbers we love more.
159.
And we love them too.
159. So I don't dox anybody here, like show anyone's address accidentally. 159 is going to be one of our newer Patreon.
Somebody that recently jumped on board.
Jeremy Thibodeau. Congratulations, Jeremy Thibodeau. You have won tonight's Patreon giveaway. You are a $2 subscriber. You subscribed at the end of last year. Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. We'll get you out a disc. Get something from Terry's.
Heck yeah. Ooh, I got restocked recently. Some new goodies showed up.
Awesome.
So we'll make sure to get something out to you. We appreciate that. Oh, JH is out.
Have a good night.
You didn't win. You're out.
Unfortunately, JH, before you leave, I just want to say thank you for your input into the conversation tonight. You and I disagree on basically everything about the conversation earlier tonight, but I'm glad you were very respectful. Thank you for being part of the conversation tonight.
Awesome. Have a good night, as you say, JH. We appreciate it. All right. I don't know that we have any other major or exciting news other than, of course, I got to plug the cold turkey. If you're listening now and you're listening maybe a few days later, or if you're listening, I should say a few days later, you might be a few days late. So hopefully you're listening now. Tomorrow night, right now, registration is available. If you want to secure your spot and be a Birdie sponsor at the price of $35, you can go out and register this very minute. If not, and you want to test your luck and risk it, you can do so starting around 8 p.m. Central on Wednesday night, the 27th. Yes, it is currently the 27th. But Wednesday night, you can then go sign up. And then once those spots are gone, they're gone. She gone. So thank you. And hope to see a bunch of you at the Cold Turkey. And I know quite a few of you that are watchers of the show that are in usually the Wisconsin and or Northern Illinois, sometimes even Michigan, Minnesota, Indiana, or Iowa. I know you guys travel over as well sometimes. So hopefully we shall see you there. Wait, Clay's birthday? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, I wasn't sure because he said it's my birthday tomorrow, so not knowing exactly where
is it
he
Wednesday or yeah, exactly.
But then he said it's my birthday there, which means it's 12/12 here, so his birthday must be on the 27th.
Meaning he's
it's
at least one area code. Wow, one time zone left or west of us.
Left of us?
Yes.
Which way are you standing, Terry?
Clay, maybe I'll see you in a couple weeks. I am excited. I will be out there for the Phoenix Ladies Open, which takes place in a couple weeks. Excited to head that direction as well. And working on a few other things out in the Phoenix area.
Happy birthday, Clay.
Yes. Happy birthday. All right, Johnny. Guess we're going to call it.
We are.
I don't have anything else if you don't.
I don't.
During the regular show, we had Natalie Ryan. Thank you so much, Natalie, for your insights. And hopefully, I'll quickly say that one of the many reasons we were excited to talk to her and have her as a guest tonight, besides, winning the event and sharing her story, is we hope that if you or someone else is wondering where there's a stance or a position or what's happening within that conversation of any of our transitioning or transgender competitors within disc golf, hopefully there are snippets or parts that you can point to within that video or within our podcast that will hopefully enlighten and or provide backstory or reasoning or logic or whatever. I personally love the fact that we have that now in the entire conversation, of course, in an archived digital format so that it can be used as a tool and a resource to share with others that might have questions. And I feel like Johnny and I were clearly enlightened throughout, and we're just hoping that that will shine through for everybody else. And again, you can agree or disagree with anything that was said, but I feel like Natalie was so gracious in sharing and just being so candid with everything that she's experiencing right now. So we again thank her for all of that. Be kind. I'll steal a line from Ellen DeGeneres. Be kind, be good to one another, all that kind of good stuff. Thank you guys for joining us. This has been Smashbox TV's Podcast 374's Aftershow. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we'll see you for the NADGT Finals this weekend, which will come to you from Austin. We'll be right here in the booth giving you all the live action on the Disc Golf Network. We'll see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.